Friends, I just pressed the Let's Go Live button, which means we gotta wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the interwebs before we go ahead and get started. Got to make sure those tubes connect themselves before we start rambling off here. We're waiting for our locals friends, our YouTube friends, our Rumble friends, our X friends, our Telegram friends, and it looks like we're connected. So that means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we are starting off in New York. We've got a criminal trial coming up very soon, like 3 weeks plus in March 25th, the criminal trial brought by Alvin Bragg. And we're getting ready for it. We got a lot of stuff that is getting filed, and we got to go through some of this to see what the heck is going on. This, of course, is involving Michael Cohen and this whole Stormy Daniels hush money saga. Totally ridiculous case, but they have accelerated this because this is really their last gasp to get a conviction before the election starts. We know the J6 case is going to be up in the air. We're going to talk about that in the second segment. But we've got the Florida classified documents case that's getting postponed. Fani and Wade are just all in, a big problem down there in Georgia. And so they've accelerated this one. All their eggs are now going into this basket, and they're going to try to get a conviction here very soon. And so it is not looking good for them. They're scrambling, but they may get something here. So we got to get up to speed on what's happening. And of course, it's Michael Cohen. He's back. The convicted perjurer, the liar, is now going to be like the star witness of this whole trial because it involved some of that alleged hush money. And what has happened now is Donald Trump and his defense, they're submitting what we call motions in limine. These are preliminary motions before the trial starts that are meant to frame out the trial, to say, we want to be precluded from the government talking about this, or the government will say the defense shouldn't be allowed to talk about this. We're trying to define the terms of the trial before the trial starts so that we don't have a bunch of this stuff that we have to hash through in the middle of trial while the jury's sitting right there. So Trump filed a monster motion. There's a bunch in it, but we're just going to focus on the Michael Cohen stuff today. And then, of course, the full PDF will be available at robertgouveia.com if you want to download it. But we'll look at the Cohen stuff because it's really the juiciest of it all. He's going to be the star witness, and this guy is totally lacking in credibility. But the problem is, it's New York. We've already seen a pattern in New York where they just don't really care about anything as long as it's anti-Trump. They'll let Tish do whatever she wants. E. Jean Carroll and Judge Kaplan can do whatever they want. And so now we're going to see now in the criminal realm what's happening there in New York. So this is going to be a very problematic trial, I think, and we're going to have to pay close attention to. So trial is going to be starting March 25th, and we're going to get up to speed on that today. Then we had some huge news drop. Of course, the Supreme Court is now going to be accepting the immunity case, the J6 case. They're going to decide on immunity, and we're very excited about that because I personally believe that they're going to find that there is presidential immunity. Now, how far that extends or whether they establish a new test for us or whether they say, official immunity starts and ends here or whatever is yet to be seen. But I don't think they're able to even do that under Marbury. We'll save that for later. But SCOTUS accepts the case, and they're going to be issuing a ruling. And we're going to go through the timeline and talk about what this means for the J6 case and the 2024 election. Andrew Weismann, Trump prosecutor, he came out, man, it's like depression, sadness abounds over there on the blue team. And he's like, the J6 case is on life support, man. And I think he's right about that. I mean, on life support, meaning, well, why is it going to die? Because they wanted it to be done before the election. So we'll hear from him. We'll see what Lisa Rubin says over at MSNBC. There was just meltdowns all over the place. We had Rachel Maddow. She is totally illogical. I mean, her rant doesn't even make sense, as we're going to say. She says, well, if Trump has immunity, then he's never going to leave because he knows if he leaves, then he'll be charged with a crime. And you're like, what are you talking about? So anyways, we'll go through that. We'll make sure I heard her right the first time I listened to it. It's kind of nuts. But this guy, Elie Mystal, freaking out. We have to stop SCOTUS. Raw. Why? Because we have some due process that's happening here. And Judge Luttig says there was no reason to take it at all. But the problem is, back in reality land, this has been crazy. This whole prosecution has been nuts. These types of cases can often take years to develop, especially going up to the Supreme Court, for crying out loud. And so this guy, great post, Dylan Esper, he's a litigator out, I believe, in San Diego or Southern California. And so he wrote this nice piece out. He says, even if I don't like Trump, like there's a bunch of whack jobs who are saying that this is really hurried or Trump is just trying to delay this and all this stuff. It's nuts how quickly we've gone from an indictment to the Supreme Court has been rapid fire pace, all because it's operating against Trump. And so we'll get into that here in a bit. But a lot of meltdowns. We'll see what they're talking about on some of the lefty media sites. And then we had this story, Fani Willis, apparently she was ranking judges in Fulton County by their skin color, which to me feels very racist, but I think it's okay if you do it if you're Fani Willis, because she can just do whatever she wants all the time without any consequences. And, well, we know because she's the biggest Fani in Georgia. But apparently there was actually some training on this. You see, there was this TV screen. They rolled it out for the prosecutors during one of their trainings. Like, remember when you were in like, 7th grade and the teacher would be like, it's movie day because they had a hangover or whatever. They'd come bring that out. Same thing happened here for the prosecutors who were not far off from 8-year-olds. And they, showed them the TV as well. Say, here you go, prosecutors. Well, watch this movie. And so they put that out there. And apparently it's talking about why black male judges are the best. All right. So we'll talk about that. It's a very strange thing for Fani to be talking about judges that are more lenient on their people who they're prosecuting. It's very strange. Like, the certain judges, she ranks them. Okay, so find out where you are depending on your gender and your race. Fani's going to put us in a little hierarchy here. So stay tuned. Find out where you would be if you were a judge. And so we'll go through that. Now, we know that Scott McAfee, I'm pretty sure, is a white male. So we're going to learn where she thinks he falls in this judicial racial hierarchy from Fulton County. Now, there was also apparently some training where they would make you say, you have to, it's this DEI stuff where you have to quantify your racism because we're all racists no matter what. And apparently there was some testing or something that some of these prosecutors had to go through where they were saying white people are bad, or here's the category. It's either bad or white people. Bad or white people. So very strange. I don't know what the heck's going on down there in Fulton County, but we're going to go through it because this is just more Fani scandal-ness that we're seeing. Now, what's happening is very curious as well. So 11 Alive is the local news media, and they put together this like 3-minute puff piece, and they're saying Fani's under attack, man. This is racism, this is bigotry, this is gender bias, and all the things. It's wild. So we're going to play it and see what you guys say about it. It's like we're living in two different planets. I'm like, did these people even see any, like 2 minutes of this whole evidentiary hearing? It's wild. So we're going to see, right? A lot of political pressure is coming up. It's like this little bubbling cauldron. And you can already predict when Fani gets disqualified, it's going to be ma racism from the rooftop. So just brace yourself, especially if you're not a black male judge. It's going to be problematic. So, all right, we're going to talk about all that today, my friends, and you can see it's a little spicy there in that final segment. So we'll see what's going on there with Fani and everything else. My friends, we're grateful that you are here and joining us today. And don't forget that we have an after party as soon as this show's over here. We do members-only streams in the morning at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We do Saturday streams. We have a great community, and as soon as we're done here, we stick around and debrief some of the show at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And this morning, we had a very fun event, a little different than our usual fare. We had my friend Jason Campbell come by. He is a Zen wellness master, and it was a ton of fun. We did a breathing exercise together where it feels like your lungs are going to explode, and it was just great. We reenact that little hind lizard brain in the back of your head. So we had a lot of fun with that at watcherlodge.com, and we'll post the replay over there if you missed it. So come check it out, watcherlodge.com. And of course, if you want any PDFs that we're about to go through, you'll find those over at robertgovea.com. Links for all these things are in the description below. So you can grab the PDFs and access them at your leisure. We also have a newsletter there. Sign up for the newsletter. That way you get all of our segments bundled up, delivered to your inbox. And when you get it to your inbox, you can just forward it to everyone you've ever met in your entire life. Just forward all contacts and say, you have been requested to subscribe to this guy's channel. And we'd appreciate that, of course. And so check out the links in the description below, my friends. We got a lot of cool stuff cooking, and we'd love to see you somewhere else on one of those other places. Now, it's time to get into it. The Donald Trump criminal trial in New York is right around the corner, and both sides are filing their motions. Donald Trump submitted a motion in limine. This is a preliminary motion that has a lot of stuff in it, and we'll hit some of the highlights. But the main thing that Trump is asking for is that Michael Cohen's testimony be precluded, that he be banned from testifying, because he's a convicted perjurer. Guy has a long history of lying, flip-flopping all the time, lied to Congress, has a criminal conviction for it. And so why should he be allowed to testify if he's not a credible witness? Now, the way this works oftentimes is the judge will allow them to testify, and it's up to the defense to impeach their credibility and to say, aren't you a liar, though? And so we're going to have a lot of this. But what is the main takeaway is Trump is trying to frame this out and say he should not be allowed to testify about these avenues or limited in these ranges. And so we're going to see what's inside. We'll see what CNN says in response, and we'll remind ourselves that we've got trial coming up here, March 25th, 2024. We're going to be covering it as in-depth as humanly possible. We do not know yet whether they're going to have a live feed for us or not, but we're going to be here covering it. Even if we have to do X scripts or translate what's happening in court, we'll do it. So thanks for subscribing and joining us when that comes up. Now, this is the motion in limine, and it is from Donald Trump. And you'll notice it's a big one. It's a 47-pager filed February 26, as the trial is now on the docket. It's heating up, and we're going to be starting jury selection in just a few short weeks. So this is the case. The people of the state of New York, a criminal trial now, a felony, multiple felonies against Donald Trump. This is Trump's motion in limine, and it's a preliminary motion meant to define the scope of the trial. What are we going to get into? What are we not getting into? So let me share just briefly the table of contents so you can see all the things that are inside, right? It's a big kind of omnibus motion, not separated out. They're throwing a bunch of stuff in here, which is usual. But the big one we're going to be focused on is why the state of New York should be precluded from suborning Michael Cohen's perjury. Okay, why would you call this witness to the stand if you know he's a liar? We'll talk about that. Now, there's also some argument that there shouldn't be any allegations about influencing the 2016 election, right? This is all the Stormy Daniels hush money stuff. So the allegation is Trump, made some illegal transactions. Again, it's like paperwork that covered up this offense and so on. So they're saying the government, when they're presenting their opening arguments, when they're presenting their evidence to the jurors in New York, this is what they should be limited from doing. Preclude New York from arguing that Trump sought to improperly influence 2016, saying that there shouldn't be any arguments about any intent to defraud, saying that the court should also preclude testimony from a bunch of people, including Dino Sajudin and Karen McDougal, people we're going to learn a lot about as the trial unfolds, saying the court should preclude testimony from this guy Clifford. The court should also not allow in that Access Hollywood tape, the grab him by the purse tape. The court should also preclude the people from presenting meritless arguments about FECA, saying that the payments did not violate that, right? Some technical legal stuff. Saying the court should exclude evidence of third-party admissions. They should exclude evidence from AMI's books and records, their spreadsheets and all their back-end documents in their office. The court should also preclude evidence that Trump or his trust is an actual enterprise. Don't let in the notes from Alan Weisselberg, the CFO. And the court should also preclude any evidence about Rudy Giuliani, right? Keep him out. So there's a lot in this filing, but let's just hit some of the highlights and see what is inside as the trial heats up. So they tell the judge, and this is Judge Juan Mercan, the case is Alvin Bragg Prosecution. They say, all right, dear judge, and we know this judge is not a favorable judge so far, says, all right, dear Judge Juan, Trump respectfully submits these motions. These are motions in limine, and we're seeking pretrial rules about improper arguments and inadmissible evidence that Bragg appears to wants to offer in this trial. And they're trying to do this to bolster their listless zombie case, right? This case has been around forever. It's a 2016 problem, and their unsuccessful efforts to interfere with Trump in 2024. So it sounds like Bragg is trying to shove a bunch of stuff into this case that does not matter. It's not relevant to the underlying issue. And specifically, Trump is seeking rulings on the following. Says Michael Cohen should not be allowed to testify. They're going to be bringing out additional perjury if he does. Also, any of this election influence stuff should be precluded. shouldn't be allowed to argue that Trump sought to improperly influence 2016 because there was nothing untoward or irregular, and there was certainly nothing criminal about his winning a candidacy when millions of Americans voted for him. Saying there shouldn't be any improper intent to defraud arguments. Saying Bragg should also be precluded from arguing this because Trump intended to win 2016 and he won it well within the established norms. So that's not intent to defraud. Talking about bootstrapping and other inadmissible evidence. You see, they give us a nice summary of it all. But let's get into the conversation about Michael Cohen here. And Trump's team, not playing around with their first sentence. Why would they? They say, first of all, Your Honor, let's be clear about this. Michael Cohen is a liar, period. Beautiful. Very simple, direct and to the point. A+, well done. And actually factually true. Michael Cohen is a liar. He recently committed perjury on the stand and under oath at a civil trial involving President Trump. And if his public statements are any indication, Michael Cohen, the perjurer, he plans to do so again at this criminal trial. Now, the court should preclude Michael Cohen's, the liar's, testimony in order to protect the integrity of this court and the process of justice. They say, first of all, Judge Juan, Cohen's demonstrated record of lying, it ranges from minimizing his criminal conduct and distorting his background in public statements to the media, that's the minor stuff, to the very serious and the consequential perjury that was committed in New York versus Donald Trump in a 2022 case. Now, even before his federal sentencing for lying that occurred in 2019, Michael Cohen began to, quote, minimize the seriousness of his decision not to report millions of dollars of income over a period of years by blaming his accountant for not uncovering the reported income. Guy grifts millions of dollars. Like, oh, my accountant screwed it up. Yeah, right. And then we get a big bunch of redactions, which irritates me. Michael Cohen's a liar and a loser, and he did a bunch of other loser things. Now, in 2019 December, less than 1 year into his 36-month sentence for federal crimes, including tax evasion, a crime of dishonesty and moral turpitude, and lying to Congress, Cohen then sought a sentence reduction. Yeah, and prosecutors in the Southern District of New York, they opposed that motion. The prosecutors from New York, where we're at right now in a different court, this is federal court, they opposed that. They informed Judge Pauley. They said, no, we had substantial concerns about Cohen and his credibility as a witness. Okay, dude's a liar, based in part on lies that he told during proffers that included material false statements, like lying to the court, violations of federal law in January and February of 2019. Now, the federal prosecutors, when talking about Michael Cohen, they also expressed concern about apparent contradictions between Cohen's post-sentencing congressional testimony and his guilty pleas and certain filings in the Southern District of New York case. So in other words, the dude has already been sentenced and convicted, and he's still lying, okay? So they're still talking to him post-sentencing, lying in his guilty pleas, lying in other filings, and a litany of other public comments made by Cohen and his surrogates concerning his federal case, many of which, right, he's on podcasts. He's like BFFs with Jen Psaki now. They're having conversations. And he's like, well, I had to take it. I had to do this. I never made that, right? It's all, he's a victim constantly. Many of which minimized his acceptance of responsibility and were inconsistent with his guilty pleas and other undisputed facts. And remember that Cohen also used Bard, ChatGPT, to fictionalize case law and submit that to the court in another case. I think it may have even been this case that we're talking about here. And yeah, you know, that's just Cohen's status for you. Now, they say last fall in New York versus Trump, Michael Cohen committed perjury. Again, he testified that he was not guilty of the federal tax evasion charges to which he pleaded guilty to. So he lied on the stand, and that he lied to U.S. District Judge William H. Pauley III during his sworn plea allocution in 2018. Lied again. Now, this included the following sworn testimony regarding his guilty plea. So, in other words, He says, right, I actually was not guilty. And so when I took a guilty plea, when I pleaded guilty, one part of what you do in a guilty plea is you say, yes, I'm guilty. So the crime is whatever it is, tax evasion, perjury. How do you plead? Guilty. And then you have what's called a factual basis, a conversation about what happened. I'm Michael Cohen, and on this date and time in this location, yes, I committed this crime because I did the following. I lied to Congress. What I said was not true. And the attorney will say that, the prosecutor will say that, the judge will sometimes say that, confirm that. Is that true? Yes, it is. Okay, great. I find there is a factual basis for your guilty plea. So I can accept that. Because if somebody says, I plead guilty, and then they lay out the factual basis for the reason you're pleading guilty, and you say, no, that never happened, well, the judge is not going to accept your plea. So this included the following sworn testimony regarding his plea. Question: have you ever made any public statements concerning the legitimacy of your convictions? More than one. And why did you do that? Because there was no tax evasion. Now, at best, it could be characterized as tax omission. I have never in my life not paid taxes, says Cohen. I have never requested an extension until 2017. Every year I had paid. No extensions on time. What my CPA counted, I paid what my CPA accountant directed me to pay. Wow. So apparently, that was the question to him. And the response at another part of the transcript was, okay, so did you lie then to Judge Pauly when you said that you were guilty of the counts that you said under oath that you were guilty of? Did you lie to Judge Pauly? He says, yes, I did. Wow. So, sir, you lied at the time. You lied more than once in federal court. Is that correct? Correct. So when the stakes affected you personally, you lied, right? Correct. And you also misled a federal judge. Is that true? Yes, I did. Wow. So Cohen is just lying all the time, right? So he lied about being guilty of lying. Amazing. So Cohen committed perjury again. In other words, they brought him to the stand and he's just lying. Again, when he falsely testified that he refused a motion pursuant to the rules from the U.S. Attorney. Michael Cohen. Question: and Michael, did you attempt at any point to cooperate with the government in connection with your guilty pleas? He says, yeah, I did cooperate with the government, yeah. However, you did not receive 5K1 or substantial assistance letter from the federal government, did you? You didn't get a letter like confirming that? No, I refused a letter. Okay. Well, they say that's not anything that happened, okay? There was no such motion. There was no agreement to make a motion. Nothing was ever extended to Cohen. Federal prosecutors have also taken the position that Cohen lied under oath. So simply put, okay, Judge Juan, the federal government acknowledged what the people in New York, what Bragg, okay, will not, is that Cohen is not a truth teller. He is a serial liar. And Alvin Bragg knows that. Even the federal prosecutors know this. They say he's lying to us. They put it in their footnotes. SDNY's opposition, okay? So when Cohen was saying, can I please terminate my probation early? They said, no, dude, you're a liar. Get out of here. And there was multiple citations to that, okay? So federal prosecutors know this guy's a dirtbag, not credible at all, just like the rest of the prosecutions. And Alvin Bragg's like, he's my guy. He's my go-to. Let's go get it. So they say, Your Honor, these prosecutors, okay, the people, which offends me, like they represent the people, get out of here. The people, the government, Alvin Bragg, are officers of the court, right? They're charged with ensuring that testimony presented to judges and juries is truthful. They have a sacred obligation to call only witnesses who are supposed to be truthful. Now, as referenced above, federal prosecutors, in this case, in our own government, have taken the position that Cohen, quote, appears to have lied under oath in a court proceeding. And he's going to be their star witness. Strikingly, Cohen has also admitted to lying in court. A lie is a lie, no matter what its subject. And if it is in any way relevant to the case, the DA has the responsibility and the duty to correct what he knows to be false and to elicit the truth. In response, they say here, perjury is material if there is any reasonable likelihood that the false testimony could impact the jury. Now, in response, Cohen's own attorney was forced to try to twist his false and sworn words. He suggested that Cohen's testimony, although clumsy and poorly worded, did not dispute the basis of his guilty plea. That's not what we just read, okay? You lied to a federal court, correct? Correct. So you lied. Okay, I admitted it. Yeah, I'm not guilty of what I said I was guilty for. I lied to the judge. Okay. His lawyer's like, nice try. Now, the DA, Alvin, is the representative not of an ordinary party to a controversy, but they represent the government. The duty is, in a criminal prosecution, is not that it shall win a case, right? This is all like evaporated now. So pre-Trump, this was what I felt like it was more true, certainly more true than it is now. What we have now is just get Trump at all costs. It shall win a case. It should have been, but it's that justice shall be done, right? Prosecutors are supposed to care about justice, not convictions. When it comes to Trump, they don't really care about anything other than a conviction, including the Constitution, due process, 234 years of historical precedent, whatever. Now, they say, given this clear evidence, okay, Judge 1, that Cohen perjured himself in his testimony at the most recent case when they brought him up to the stand, and the likelihood that he's going to commit perjury again if he's called by Bragg in this case, it was disturbing to hear the people, Bragg, blithely proclaim that at the February 15th hearing at the conference, that his perjury is not their problem, right? It's not our problem if he's a liar. And that could be addressed by the defense on cross-examination, which is generally how this works. When generally, actually, prosecutors don't put liars on the stand. I mean, that's kind of, even cops and stuff. Like, man, that cop has like a Brady list file. It's like not good. So they don't want to put liars on the stand because you'll obliterate them. But they don't have anyone else in this case, right? He is their star witness. He's the only real witness that's going to connect all the dots here. And the dude is a liar. So they're trying to get him out now. I think the judge is, of course, going to let him on, obviously. They would have no case if he kept him off. So they are going to have to address it on cross-examination, and that's generally the rule. But you also generally don't see a situation where they take a convicted perjurer who admits, like on the stand while he's testifying that he lied. Prosecutors generally have more sense than that, but we're operating in bizarro world and New York. So they say Alvin's desire to rush ahead with these proceedings rather than look into the ongoing criminal conduct of their star witness, Michael Cohen, is troubling, and it violates the people's ethical and constitutional obligations. And the people, Alvin's failure to live up to their obligations, it requires this court, you, Judge 1, to step in and preclude the people from suborning perjury by calling Cohen as a witness. And so we're going to see what, obviously, Judge 1 does about this. I think we're going to see Michael Cohen come in and testify. And we're going to see what Trump and his team does to obliterate him. Now, remember, in the prior trials, when Michael Cohen was brought in particular in the Letitia case, he was believed, okay? Judge Engeron says, I believe Michael Cohen. So that's the first part of this motion in Limine. Let's hit some of the other highlights here. You see, Trump is also trying to stop Bragg from arguing that he sought to influence the 2016 election. They're saying because Trump made all these payments in order to get elected, and that caused a conspiracy. I say, first of all, the charges that Alvin is choosing to bring, they relate to records in 2016. That's when the records are. So they chose to proceed on substantive counts, and there is no conspiracy alleged. However, their submissions to this court, we can see what they're trying to do here. There is an extraordinary effort to prejudice this jury. They're trying to include salacious and irrelevant details from years before the entries in question. Now, to ensure a fair trial, the court must limit this and to offer proof that is only relevant to the case. Now, the court should preclude Alvin from suggesting that Trump sought to influence the election. Why? Because even if the people's evidence comes in exactly as they hope, with perjury and all coming from Michael Cohen, they will at most have a basis to contend that Trump was campaigning, that's all, successfully, as many others have done before him. Now, essentially, Alvin is arguing that efforts by a candidate to prevent adverse publicity about himself equals an attempt to defraud. And this argument has no basis in the law, and it's an extraordinary perversion of our election system. Now, candidates are not required to disclose everything about their personal life, and in an attempt by a candidate to keep certain matters personal are neither inappropriate nor illegal. And so Trump and his right to a fair trial requires that they be precluded from bringing in these allegations that would cause false and unduly prejudicial beliefs and cause the jury to be prejudiced. Now they say these considerations don't change. An elected official concealing damaging information, it's not probative of criminal intent. It's politics. And they cite Biden as historical precedent. They say Biden's suppression of the nature and the extent of his mishandling of the classified information prior to the release of Robert Hur's report is a recent example. And remember that? Remember Biden sent his lawyers over to clean all this up before they even told us about it? It's certainly not the only one and is a practice as old as politics itself. So no one at Trump's trial should be permitted to assail him by suggesting that the jury is trying to avoid negative press is an element of intent to defraud. That is the opposite of the truth. Now let's see what else is inside here. So they're talking about this intent to defraud, and they're also trying to keep out some of the Access Hollywood tape and some other stuff. Let's see what that says. They also want to preclude testimony from this person about Karen McDougal. Apparently this person may have been involved in some transactions. I mean, we see some redacted paragraphs here, which are curious. They say, contrary to Bragg's suggestion, they say Cohen was intimately involved. Contrary to this, Karen McDougal was with AMI. And remember, AMI was another entity that apparently got some hush money or something. Well, you don't see what's inside of that. And so they're trying to stop some of this from coming out at trial. Similarly with testimony from Clifford. Now, here's some interesting language. The court should also preclude testimony from Clifford. It's unduly prejudicial. Bragg agrees this testimony is the very best peripheral. They say that the case against Trump, the core of it, is not money for intercourse. Clifford also apparently publicly stated that she will testify at the upcoming trial. She said, I've been asked to kind of behave. You know, I'm biting my tongue so effing hard right now, this person called Clifford. Tellingly, so-and-so and so-and-so reveal that blank would use the trial as an opportunity to promote blank and to monetize blank's story. Now, what is that? That's like 3 characters. So it's like maybe his or her. So they're just trying to hide the gender, really. Reveal that she or he would use the trial as an opportunity to promote blank and monetize her story. Similar to Cohen, yeah, so that's a different person. Yeah, so this person and have included her on the witness list. Interesting. Anyways, similar to Cohen, she seeks to tell contrived stories. Okay, another witness. Salacious details of events she claimed occurred 20 years ago. In warning Clifford, Bragg appears to have recognized the risks of presenting this irrelevant and untrue testimony by warning their witness, and they're trying to secure a conviction by dragging her in. Now, we note that Bragg have also produced something. What is that? Ooh, the ex parte polygraph test was administered in 2011, 8 years before Bragg impaneled their juries to investigate Trump, with the only last returning charges on this zombie case. Now, the test, apparently a polygraph, was wholly unreliable. It was privately arranged and unilateral, and it was designed to produce obvious results to support Clifford's public narrative. Moreover, it's inconsistent with statements Clifford has made in denying the affair. Here's the Access Hollywood tape. So Trump says, we got to keep this precluded. Why? It appears that Bragg is going to seek to argue at trial that adverse publicity about the Access Hollywood recording in October 2016, that it somehow prompted AMI executives to notify Cohen about Clifford's well-worn allegations. Now, the contents of the recording of the Access Hollywood, that's the grab by the purse tape, they're not connected to Clifford or McDougal. And because there will be no dispute about the contact or the resulting connection between Cohen and Clifford's attorney on October 10, 2016, the inference that the people seek from the purse tape has only de minimis probative value, and they're just trying to make Trump look bad, in other words. On the other hand, the contents are extremely and impermissibly prejudicial. So much so that even Judge Kaplan reasoned that the Access Hollywood recording was a confession, right, is what he said. So to state the obvious, we disagree with Judge Kaplan, another New York judge. That's the federal E. Jean Carroll case. Trump saying, you know, I grabbed them by their purses. He's like a confession to doing it in Bergdorf's with E. Jean. Okay. Now, Billy Bush, a longtime correspondent for NBC, who was with Trump at the time, commented, says there were 7 other guys present on the bus at the time, and single one of us assumed we were listening to a crass stand-up act, right? No one even believed it. Locker room talk. But the found that Kaplan says that it was an admission, right? They're saying Kaplan calls it an admission, and so that means that it's like evidence of a crime, and that has nothing to do here. The contents have no place in a fair trial on the charges that have been filed here, right? So they're charging with document crimes, right? Moving money around unlawfully. And they're going to try to, you know, like attach an assault bit of evidence into the whole claim. So don't allow the court to permit these ridiculous arguments. The alleged payments to McDougal and Clifford did not violate the law. They say Bragg, right? Even if these payments were made, they don't violate the law. Now, Alvin Bragg intends to introduce testimony at trial to support their flawed legal theories that these payments were illegal campaign contributions, the crux of the case. And thus they satisfy the, quote, other crime element for a felony violation under New York law, right? And they're like, this case is very old, obviously. So they have to find a way to make it a felony so that the statute of limitations is met, and they have this like new theory, and we're going to see how it unfolds for them. However, they say, the alleged payments to McDougal and to Clifford, they would not constitute violations just as a matter of law. Why? They were not campaign contributions as defined by federal campaign finance law. Now, as discussed below, courts have found payments much more closely related to campaign advocacy to fall outside of the statute's scope. So here's their argument. They say a third-party payment can be considered a contribution or an expenditure subject to FECA's requirements in 2 circumstances. And they detail those for us here. They say if a third-party expenditure is made, or 2, a third-party payment for personal use. Now, it should go without saying, something cannot be an illegal campaign contribution unless it's first an expenditure or a contribution. Now, the payments at issue in this case cannot have violated either of the provisions. Why? 1, they were not expenditures, and they were not made for the purpose of influencing any election. And they were also not contributions as they would have been made irrespective of Trump's candidacy, right? So Trump was going to solve this whether he's running or not. In other words, these payments were not campaign contributions within the meaning of FECA, and thus cannot have been illegal campaign contributions. So the people should not be permitted to present arguments suggesting otherwise. None of these payments were made for the purpose of influencing the election. They give us some Supreme Court analysis on how to interpret those. And the meanings are out of alignment with this case, talking about the DC Circuit. But here, all of that precedent, here, when viewed objectively, the alleged payments to McDougal and to Clifford and what is her real name? Stormy Daniels? I can't remember. Were not campaign related and thus were not made for the purpose of influencing the election within the meaning of the law. Neither AMI nor Cohen worked for the Trump campaign, and the payments did not fund the core political activity. And such as advocating for a client or otherwise relieve any financial obligations to free up the campaign's own resources for other expressly political activity. Stephanie Clifford is the name. Thank you. Stephanie Clifford, that's her. So by any measure, these expenditures were far less related to an election than those at issue in Orlowski, which the DC Circuit refused to deem contributions subject to the FECA's limited spending limits. So for this reason, all expected testimony that the payments at issue were made with the subjective purpose of influencing the election, like Trump intended to pay her off, even if credited, is beside the point. The agreements with McDougal and Stormy under the objective test were not campaign expenditures. They say even before Trump was elected, Trump was the head of an extensive business empire. It operated businesses around the world, most of which bear his name. He's got a wife, he's got 5 children for whom he cares deeply. Now, in light of these significant personal and business interests, accounts of alleged interactions, they pose the risk of reputational damage to President Trump and his family and his business interests. All that is separate and apart from his candidacy. Got to wrap these things up anyways. Thus, even assuming that they entered into these transactions to protect Trump's reputation, the requisite nexus to campaign activity is lacking. You can't show us for campaign purpose. Actually, for the contrary, a contrary view that these sort of payments are campaign contributions, it would lead to absurd results. Simply put, if the payments to McDougal and Clifford were, as a matter of law, if they were considered to be made for influencing an election, that would necessarily mean that the campaign funds that could have been used to make those hush payments. And that is because, as discussed above, they use identical language between contributions and expenditures. So if you apply the rules they want you to, then everyone's going to be using their campaign money to pay off these types of interactions. Now, one need not be particularly cynical to believe that if these payments had been made from campaign funds, Alvin would be taking the position that the spending, right, if they were classified as campaign funds, he would have been charged for that. They would have said that was unlawful conversion of these funds. And while they did find, the FEC did find reason to believe that the payments to McDougal violated FECA and Cohen pleaded guilty to FECA violations, no appellate court has ever held that third-party payments of this sort violate FECA. Neither Cohen nor AMI ever even chose to litigate those things, and so we submit that none of these violated FECA, and so Alvin Bragg should be precluded from making this argument. Now they say, again, Trump would have made these arguments anyways. Trump would have paid these things off, and there's other historical evidence of this. For example, the FEC unanimously dismissed a complaint for $96,000 by a senator's parents of the family of a former campaign worker who also had an affair. In short, the test is whether the third-party payment objectively affected the candidate's ability to campaign. And clearly, that didn't for Trump. The payments to Trump to McDougal and Clifford, by any objective measure, did not materially free up Trump campaign money. The campaign was already well funded, $38 million in cash on hand, more than $50 million, more than $15 million by mid-October. Trump's a very wealthy individual as well. And so this was not a campaign contribution. It did not meet the nexus that's required under the rules. And so they want to keep a bunch of other stuff out, as we can see here. We'll fast forward through some of the technical stuff. They want Alan Weisselberg's notes to be precluded. They say Alvin Bragg is going to try to get in the CFO's handwritten notes, but he's not on their witness list. And the notes are inadmissible hearsay, and they don't have any testimonial foundation from him. They're unreliable, and they should not be allowed in. And here's looks like a picture of his notes or something. Accordingly, it's not admissible. And so get it out of here. And they say, nearing the end, they say, finally, all evidence about Rudy Giuliani should be precluded. They say Trump also moves to stop Alvin from bringing in videos or transcripts or other derivative testimony from Rudy Giuliani about any payments here. They're inadmissible hearsay. They don't follow the rules. And Giuliani was neither authorized to make statements and questions, nor was he acting within the scope of an existing employment or agency relationship. Now, even if the statement were admissible, which they're not, the people should not be allowed to cherry pick portions that are taken out of context. And so, here's more examples. Rudy Giuliani showed up on Hannity. He was talking about Mueller. Giuliani went off script, said some things that they don't think are admissible. It's not Trump's statement, so don't let any of this in, right? Rudy's out there just, kind of running his mouth a bit. They're like, well, we didn't authorize him to say that stuff. So these statements should be precluded. They try to introduce 100 statements that they're trying to attach to Trump. Approximately 4 dozen excerpts come from Trump's book, some published nearly 40 years ago. And so they're trying to introduce all of these statements, even like this from Trump, from like Think Like a Billionaire. Now, the people should not be allowed to introduce this stuff, whatever the style of his business operations were in 87, 2004, 2007, when these excerpts are written. There's no means for trying to talk about him here. They're trying to introduce, I always think of myself as the best looking guy. It's no secret. I love beautiful women. That's why I bought Miss USA and Miss Universe. I love being around beautiful women. I mean, who doesn't? These statements have no admissible purpose at trial and only serve to attempt to portray President Trump in a negative light. I mean, come on. Can't beat up on the guy for that. Come on. The court should require the people to disclose a realistic exhibit list. They just give us a bunch of garbage. And so the people should be precluded from offering these exhibits at trial in order to disclose more information to us. So, for all these reasons, Trump's defense says President Trump respectfully requests that the court exclude the foregoing evidence and the argument, signed by Todd Blanche and the rest of the Trump defense team. Now, in all likelihood, my friends, a lot of this is going to be denied because I think this case is going to be as rigged as the rest of them in New York. And I think CNN agrees with that. This is a little bit of some reaction from them. Former prosecutor is saying that a lot of this is not, I think, going to have any merits because, well, we're in New York. It's Judge Juan Merchan presiding, and we know that he's already made some pretty adverse rulings against Trump by holding this trial so quickly. Now, here is some conversation from CNN.
Cohen from Testify?
No, that is a ridiculous request. They have to know that if you have a witness who you think is impeachable, has lied or will lie, the answer is he gets to take the stand if one party chooses to call him, and then the other party gets to cross-examine him vigorously. And then it is up to the jury to decide whether they believe or disbelieve that witness. There is no such thing as a judge saying, I don't believe this witness, I think he's going to lie, therefore he's off the stand. The DA is going to call Michael Cohen. They will assume all the risk that comes with that, but it's up to the jury, not a judge.
Yeah, and that's why prosecutors generally don't call those people because they are so lacking in credibility. But we don't really care about that. Like, we know the jurisdiction here is going to convict Trump because they've done it twice before in E. Jean Carroll. I mean, it wasn't a criminal conviction, but in the E. Jean Carroll case, we saw they went hog wild and found him guilty of found him liable for the grab him by the purse problem, the DJ diddle. But remember, the jury didn't even find E. Jean Carroll credible in New York because they found that she was a liar as it relates to the grape, the old hibbity-dibbity. So that was, the jury found, like, we don't believe you. She said, I got Ard in the dressing room. They said, no, you didn't. You're a liar. But we'll say, okay, maybe we'll give you a second one and we'll hit him with the grab him by the purse situation. So we have that one. We have Tish James and Engeron. We saw that whole scandal and that saga unfold. And so trial in this case is starting March 25th, my friends, 2024. We're going to be here covering it. So thank you for subscribing and joining us. There's going to be a lot more filings to unpack here because it's going to heat up and trial is going to start with jury selection. And I think they're going to do everything they can to keep this thing on the tracks because it's their last gasp to get a conviction before the election. So thanks for joining us, my friends. Thanks for subscribing. Don't forget to check out some of the links down in the description below. RobertGouveia.com is where you can get the PDF we just went through. We also have WatcherLodge.com where we're doing self-development and sovereignty stuff. Ton of fun there. And of course, WatchingTheWatchers.locals.com where we do members-only streams in the morning and shows on Saturday. And we'd love to see you join us so we can stay connected. And we'll see you back here on the next one. All right. Now, my friends, let's turn our attention over to what's happening in Washington, D.C., because we got some good stuff happening here. The Supreme Court accepts Trump's immunity case, and many people in the media are admitting that the J6 saga, the attempt to get a conviction for insurrection before the election, is now on life support. Andrew Weismann, former Trump prosecutor, made that same phrase. We'll talk about that. A lot of meltdowns from Rachel Maddow, Elie Mystal, Judge Luttig, who talks like a can of molasses. All of them freaked out because this is where all their eggs were in this one basket. But the problem is even though they're very upset about this and they're saying Trump and the Supreme Court are colluding with each other to try to delay, and Trump is trying to stall this out. It's all nonsense, okay? The fact is, this case has been accelerated unlike anything we've ever seen before, and we're going to go through the timeline and have ourselves a little reality check courtesy of this attorney called Dylan Esper on X. But we're going to see what the order says, make sure we have our timeline marked, and then we're going to hear what the media says. They're very sad, very depressed that they're not going to be able to get this guy before the election on the insurrection charges. So SCOTUS posted this. In the case of Donald Trump versus the United States, very simple order. We're just covering it for posterity's sake. Saying here, the application for a stay that was presented to John Roberts is referred to by him to the court. Now, the special counsel, that's Jack Smith's request to treat the stay application as a petition for a writ of certiorari is granted. And that petition is granted limited to the following question. So it's almost like they're saying, hey, Jack, you win. We're going to do what you want to do. Aren't you happy? And so they accept it a little bit. It's kind of like underhanded to him. We're accepting your petition, not really Trump's. Whether and if so, to what extent does a former president enjoy presidential immunity from criminal prosecution for conduct alleged to involve official acts during his tenure in office? Great question. And I think the answer to that is a president does enjoy presidential immunity, and it's very broad, and that if you don't like an official act, you got to impeach them under the impeachment judgment clause. Then the immunity evaporates. Now, without expressing a view on the merits, this court directs the Court of Appeals to continue withholding issuance of the mandate. So in other words, Chutkan is not going to get the case back. So Jack Smith is like, screaming at the sky, until the sending down of a judgment for this court and the application for a stay from Trump is dismissed as moot. So it's like, we're dismissing Trump's request. But Jack, you win. And we're going to give you everything that Trump wants. Perfect. So the stay is granted. They're going to hear the case. And this case is going to be set for oral argument during the week of April 22nd, 2024. So mark your calendars, my friends. Petitioner's brief on the merits, that's Trump's, and any amicus brief in support or in support of neither party are to be filed. And respondent's brief on the merit. And actually, I think they're accepting Jack as the petitioner. So we got a bunch of stuff due by March 19th, by April 8th, and by April 15th. So their briefs on the merits and any amicus curiae briefs, so friends of the court briefs, so like we've covered those here from Ed Meese and others, are to be filed on or before Monday the 8th. A reply brief is due, and then, of course, we'll read all those briefs here, and then we'll see what's happening on April 22nd for oral arguments. And so it is causing a lot of ruckus out there throughout the media. Here is one example of this. That puts this entire case on life support. And Andrew Weismann's a former Trump prosecutor, and here's what he said about this when he was on MSNBC.
Itself from any criticism, and then perhaps ruling that no, the president does not have full immunity. What is your sense of things, number one? And number two, how long this may delay the trial?
Well, I'm very pessimistic. I do not have the view that they took this case because they're going to hand out a win to Donald Trump in the Colorado case, but here they're going to essentially give him a defeat by saying there is no presidential immunity in this case. Yes, of course, I think ultimately they will not grant.
Right. I agree with that. Some people were making the argument that there was going to be this split. Okay, SCOTUS is going to accept both cases, and they're going to say the Colorado ballot case is dismissed. That's a stupid case, but immunity doesn't apply, so prosecute him there. Right? Kind of split it. I don't think so. I think he's going to be 2 for 2 on this.
Immunity in this case, but they have given him the win because the DC case,
that's right,
let's just face it, is on life support now. It is really hard to figure out how this case gets to trial before the election. And I think that's the end result of what they did here. So
Heartache.
They may ultimately say that he does not have immunity, but in fact, he will have been given immunity because the case will not go to trial before the election. Meaning if Joe
Meaning the case, he has immunity because the case is not going to go to trial before the election. Because we're just going through due process. because we have millions of pages of documents in here, because we have a lot of novel legal issues of law.
Biden wins, the case goes forward, but if he loses, the case is over. I think it's worth noting the other sort of big picture item is any normal politician, any person who was accused of a crime that they did not do would want to clear his name. And so what's happening here—
Totally ridiculous, right? Why would you ever even agree to that? He's being prosecuted by a politicized, weaponized DOJ. And he's not giving any time for this. So put a pin in this, okay? Because he's going to make the argument that Trump should just want to walk in there. Just waltz right in there and, hey, try me with whatever evidence you have. I'm innocent, right? Totally ridiculous. And this is an old trope about all defendants. Well, if you're so innocent, why don't you just go to trial? Man, because the government is corrupt. And we have the presumption of innocence. You have the burden of proof. And we have the right to due process and equal protection under the law, and we're going to use it. So don't tell us, to just like race in there and go play ball with Jack Smith. It's totally unfair. They've got millions of dollars. They got the whole DOJ. They've got endless money. They've got the power of the FBI, and the defense has nothing. We have due process of law. That's it. And they're trying to even take that away. So it's a ridiculous trope. We'll come back to that.
The reason one thinks it's a win for Donald Trump is he's trying to avoid at all costs the facts of what happened that are charged in this indictment, that they do not get presented in court where facts actually matter and people will hear it. So he can continue to say publicly this is all just a smear campaign by his political adversary, and avoid actually having this confronted by a jury to assess those claims that he's making publicly.
So you guys could have brought this case a long time ago, and you chose not to do that. You chose to wait to try to time it in an election year, and now you're freaked out because Jack Smith has dropped the ball on it. Trump has validly appealed these issues, and the cases were garbage from the get-go, okay? This is why presidents haven't been prosecuted in 234 years, because it's not logical to do it, but they are so freaked about Trump winning that they have no other options. So this is another clip from MSNBC, and then we're going to respond to this. There's a great thread from another attorney. But this is some ideas on what the possible timeline might look like from this woman, Lisa Rubin. She's another, I think, attorney who has covered this case a lot from MSNBC. Let's see what they say.
Remaining. When Donald Trump's case was paused to allow for further consideration of the immunity issue, there were 88 days left to trial. Judge Chutkan has publicly committed herself to giving Donald Trump around 7 months to prepare for trial. So we have to assume that she takes that 88-day remainder fairly seriously.
She will.
She has also said, including through a pre-questionnaire that went out to prospective jurors in the Washington area, that this is a trial that will take around 3 months. So you have to build into the calendar that 88 days plus 90 days to try the case if you think that this is going to happen before the election. And that's why folks like me are asking the Supreme Court, why didn't you write like you're running out of time? Because time is quickly elapsing here.
No. That's your time, okay? That's not everyone else's time. It's your time. They're on a whole different clock than the rest of us. They think that everything is about this election and then we all got to get it settled before the election. They could have charged Trump immediately. We've already had Proud Boys trials. We've already had Oath Keepers trials. We've already had many J6 trials, many of them. They tried to time it, and SCOTUS isn't playing ball with them. Okay, nobody is as freaked out as they are about this, and nobody has to play by their clock, but nice try.
There are folks who believe that the Supreme Court could rule quickly after the April 22nd oral argument. Our friend Neil Katyal, for example, is one who believes that the court will render a ruling by sometime in early May. On the other hand, if you believe that the court is likely to push this decision until the end of the term in June, which usually ends at the very end of June or July 1st, like our friend Judge Michael Luttig, then you're really in a crunch with respect to the calendar and if and when a trial can begin. There's also, finally, the question of Department of Justice policy. I've heard a number of folks on our air and other places say, well, wait a second, the Department of Justice prohibits taking steps in a case like this 60 to 90 days before an election. That's not my understanding of DOJ policy, which prohibits overt investigative steps, not the trying of a case, but more.
So they're gonna find a way to wiggle out of their own rule. Well, we can start a trial like in October. like October 30th, maybe be a good date to start.
Importantly, the Department of Justice won't be in control of when this case is tried. That will be up to Judge Tanya Chutkan if and when the case is returned to her. And in that instance, I believe that Judge Chutkan would proceed even if we are well into general election territory at that point.
She would. I totally agree with that 100%. Chutkan will put this case to start a trial on November 3rd. Okay, I don't know what day that is, but she'd do it, right? Trial starts, jury selection, let's go. Because it's all, this is the end game. This is everything that they are building up to do. And there are incredible comments out there. And the best one is the why so serious comment. Why so serious? Okay, we got, how about a reality check, okay? Before we listen to some of these other wackos melt down and hear Judge Luttig talk like he's on 0.25 speed. We got this nice summary. Okay, they're all freaked out about the timeline. Weismann and Lisa Rubin all freaked out. Oh, why are they going so slow? Relax, everybody. All right, this is from Dylan Esper. And he's a litigator and he's an attorney and he does appeals. Now, appellate lawyers are like a different breed, right? They have to, it's different. And I'm not an appellate lawyer, right? I was in the day-to-day stuff. If we had to do appeals, we went and found people to do those who were excellent at appeals. It's a whole different ballgame. So this is a beautiful summary of what's going on. And I don't get the sense that this guy's like an ultra MAGA Trumper. So give him a follow if you'd like. I'll give a repost on this one so you can follow him easily. But here's what he says. The courts are slow walking Trump's immunity claim narrative. For the most part, that's coming from non-lawyers who don't understand anything about the system, is truly angering me. So here's the real story. He says, look, President Trump was indicted last August, 2023. That's not long ago. Notably, that's the biggest slow walk of all. An August 2023 indictment for a January 2021 alleged crime is insane. And it was 10 months after Jack Smith was appointed. But apparently, Smith is a saint among men and, quote, on our team. Okay, so I think this guy's like on that team. So Jack Smith, he says, cannot be criticized. And so shout out to this dude for criticizing someone on his own team. He says President Trump's motion to dismiss, it was filed on September 29th. So August indictment, motion to dismiss, less than 2 months, okay, after the case commenced, which is crazy, super fast. And we were still talking about discovery, like 13 million pages, 8 million pages. They already had a motion to dismiss, crazy. Now, Judge Chutkan, the J6 judge, who again gets no criticism because again, she's on the right team, decided it on December 1st. So she waited 2 months. And nonetheless, to be clear, she says Judge Chutkan deserves no criticism for this. I mean, 2 months from filing to decision on a motion to dismiss in federal court is very fast. Like, that's rapid speed. Whoa. Usually, you're looking at 6 months or more. But Chutkan dropped everything. Like, let's go! Because they're freaking out. The clock is ticking. So he says, well, that's like, wow, like way fast. So this case was then expedited. And he says, you know, Trump had a right under the law, which they don't, you know, most people don't care about on the blue team anymore. He had the right under the law to appeal this ruling to the Court of Appeals and to stay the trial court proceedings while he did it. Now, you may not like this rule, but it applies to anyone raising an immunity defense, not just Trump. Now, President Trump took his appeal and the court concluded briefing in just 1 month. 1 month for all of that. And then they held oral arguments on January 9th and decided the case February 6th. This is lightning fast. Most Court of Appeals cases take about a year to a year and a half between commencement and conclusion. A year to a year and a half at the Court of Appeals. And further, the DC Circuit, Judge Chutkan, the Court of Appeals, the DC Court of Appeals itself broke a norm to speed up the case even further. And nobody even criticized it for breaking this norm. Why'd they do that? It's a technical issue But the mandate is the date on which the Court of Appeals judgment when it goes into effect. In a normal case, if you're like a normal defendant and you're not Trump, which is below the law all over the place, he's constantly below the law, like way below. You get 15 days in a normal case to petition the court to rehear the case in case some error was made, right? 15 days. Or to suggest that the full court, the Court of Appeals, rather than the 3-judge panel, this was the en banc, that they get to hear the case. And then the decision takes effect 7 days after that. But guess what? So all the 15 plus the 7, that's 22 days, right? Wrong. Sorry, Trump, you don't get it. The DC Circuit panel took those 22 days away from President Trump. Again, he's below the law. You don't get those. It did so even though we have no idea if the full DC Circuit panel, the en banc, actually might have wanted to even hear the case. And now we don't have that at all because SCOTUS has just taken it. But it doesn't matter, said the panel at the Court of Appeals. We're not even going to let you make that request. The decision takes effect immediately. And so President Trump was forced to file immediately to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, even here, his time was cut. Normally, when you're even with the law, normally you get 3 months to file a petition to the Supreme Court. The D.C. Circuit gave President Trump a week, 1 week. 3 months, a week. Trump, once again, is below the law. Again, enormous speed, crazy. President Trump then filed his application to SCOTUS to take the case on February 12th. SCOTUS then they decided within 16 days to grant the application. It's like, whoa. And then SCOTUS set a highly expedited briefing schedule. It says normally a case that is taken by SCOTUS on February 28th will be briefed all through the summer and the spring. It'll be heard in October when the new term starts, and it would be decided the following January. That's next year, 2025, in a normal case. If Trump was at the law, we would be having this conversation a year from now, but we're not because he's below. But SCOTUS held all the briefings will be done by April. Again, insane. And it will be orally argued the week of 4/22. That sets up for a decision in early May. A motion that was filed, okay, just to be clear, a motion to dismiss, which was filed in September, goes through all 3 levels of the federal court system and it gets decided by May. That's fast. You want to know what regular order looks like? Well, Judge Chutkan takes 6 months to rule on a motion to dismiss, and she rules on it the last week of March 2024. The D.C. Circuit appeal takes a year, and it's decided in March 2025. Throw on another month for the en banc denial. Trump's petition for certiorari to the Supreme Court hits in spring 2025, okay? And his petition is granted. The case is briefed in the summer and the early fall. It's argued November 2025. And then it's decided in March 2026. That's what regular order looks like. This case has been expedited by almost 2 years, but still the Weismanns and the Rubins and all the rest of them, they all just cry I can't believe it. And this is absolutely right, by the way. Look at any other case in the Supreme Court. Just go back and rewind the clock. Go find when the case started. It's years ago. You have complex drug cases at felonies at local state levels that take 2 years. I've worked on many felonies that were drug crimes, that were minor crimes, that were years long cases because of what's required. Designated complex, continuances all over the place. It takes forever. They have done, and those are like minor cases that don't have 13 million pages of documents, for crying out loud. So the fact that we've gotten this fast has been insane, right? It's a violation of due process. We've been screaming about it forever. It is dumping all over his rights. He can't prepare. How can you defend yourself if you don't have any time to prepare the case? They've had years. Trump has had 0. And if you want to argue that a 5/24 decision is still too late, well, SCOTUS only controls the last 3 months of that delay. And so the rest of it, blame the liberal Judge Chutkan and the D.C. Circuit, and especially the DOJ. The DOJ didn't bring this case for 2.5 years. They waited because they wanted to hit it in the middle of an election. They did it intentionally. Says, seriously, the court system took almost 2 years off a case that the DOJ took 2.5 years to bring. It's disgusting. The Supreme Court itself took 8 months off the case, and we're blaming the Supreme Court. This is utterly wrong. The reality is once the DOJ decided it would take 2.5 years to bring the J6 charges, the goose was cooked. And that is the case, even though the federal courts, including SCOTUS, tried to pull it out of the oven quicker at the end. Boom. What an awesome thread. Okay, very grateful for that thread. Shout out to Dylan Esper. Please follow this person at Dylan Esper, Dylan ESPER on X. And of course, I retweeted it up there, reposted it. Sorry, Elon, don't ban me on the X platform. And so go give this dude a follow, right? Really great analysis and absolutely true. And we have been making this point for a long time here. Remember, in one of the original motions from Trump's defense, they said that Walmart versus Visa took like 7 years to litigate and had like 7 million pages. Trump had like 13 million pages and they wanted to get trial in March. Chutkan wanted trial in March. These people are psychopaths, all right? They are violating due process of the law. They are not giving the defense the fair opportunity to even defend themselves. And it's like the Count of Monte Cristo, man. It's disgusting behavior, and they're doing it because of Trump. It makes my blood boil. All right. Now, even in spite of all that, okay, these whack jobs are still melting down because they want to use the power of the state to stop their political opponents. And let's listen to Rachel Maddow and watch how she hyperventilates over the sand grasping through her fingers.
The court, as the Supreme Court of the United States and a rational actor and a decent one, that was a reasonable supposition, and it just turns out they're not that.
You don't have a court.
Incremental bit of progress here. The important question here is not whether the Supreme Court is going to decide that Donald Trump and all presidents are immune from prosecution for things they commit, crimes they committed while they were president. I mean, it would be fully insane for them to actually side with Trump here, right?
No, it would not. No, it would not, actually. And it's not absolute immunity. And I get tired of this, right? They talk it like it's absolute immunity. It's not. They impeached Trump for insurrection, and they tried to convict him in the Senate, and Congress failed. And that means under the impeachment judgment clause, Trump still has presidential immunity, and he has every right in this country to have the process unfold legitimately ahead of him so he can try his case in court.
Conclusion that we can arrive at now based on what they have done without having to wait for the ruling is that they are ensuring that Trump will not face trial. And when they inevitably rule that presidents aren't immune from prosecution after they leave office,
when they inevitably say that they aren't immune,
will tell Donald Trump, if by then he is president, is that he can never leave the office of the presidency.
Right.
And if he is voted out in 2028, he cannot leave office, and he is willing to he is welcome to commit any crimes he wants to, as long as he is still president, in order to ignore the result of that election and stay in power for life, because otherwise he's going to go to prison when he gets out.
Okay, so do you see how logically idiotic that is? That it supports the argument as to why you need immunity, right? So if you grant a president immunity so that they're not under threat of constant prosecution, then we'll have more orderly power, right? Because if that's what happens now, if we have a system where if Trump leaves office and he gets prosecuted into oblivion, it's going to cause, right, a new incentive structure to be created. And that if we have that principle, right, where you can prosecute a president, okay, let's say Trump loses, Biden wins. What's going to stop Biden from leaving, dumb Rachel? Because he's going to be in the same position too, right? Or whoever the next president happens to be. Why would any president ever leave? Then they would be subject to prosecution. But they have no foresight, right? They can't lay down a rule. These are the same people saying that Trump will never leave, who say he committed an insurrection and then left. We're like, okay, well, you just said he committed an insurrection and then he like packed up and left. So if he didn't do it back then when Congress was under attack or so-called, then why is he going to suddenly do it now? So they're just, I don't even know if they believe their own insanity. It's like they don't think through it a whole lot. Like, okay, so they're not, so then that means Joe Biden's going to, like, it supports immunity. Her whole argument supports immunity, but she doesn't even see it. All right. Now, here is, I think, really what this is about. They're going to cry so hard when the Supreme Court comes out and says, you guys are whacked for trying to throw him off the ballot. You're on the ballot. You guys are whacked for trying to insurrect him. You already failed to do that. So he's on the ballot and he has immunity. Deal with it. all this is about delegitimizing the court. They do not want these 6, Republican justices, conservative justices up there. They want to minimize them. They've been working on this forever, and they're laying the foundation for it. Here is this guy and this hairdo explaining how destroyed we are. And look at this chyron back here. You see Donald Trump versus the United States. You see how they do that here? That's actually not the case name, right? I mean, maybe that's the appeal name. It's flipped around. But they try to frame it like Trump versus America. So, these names flip around, like the legal captions flip around based on the appeal. But they try to say Trump is attacking America, right? This is all being framed for political gain. And here's this very unwell individual here ranting.
Then the appeals court gives a bulletproof ruling, as Dahlia says, and they still decide to take it up.
What it says is that they are...
It was not a bulletproof ruling from the D.C. Circuit, okay? Those 3 ladies didn't even want to sign their names. That's how bad the case was. And I'm tired of hearing that. And by the way, if the case was amazing, then SCOTUS would have just left it stand. And we would have known right then that there was no immunity. It was a beautiful case. They settled everything. But even their opinion was terrible. It was logically inconsistent. And whatever standards they set, right? The idea is we have to set a standard for Trump and the next guy, or a woman, whatever. We have to set the standard so it is eternal. We got to live with it. They don't think that way. They just want this case. They just want Trump destroyed. Whatever the collateral consequences of that are can be damned. But they didn't even sign their name to the opinion, right? These are all one-off individual attacks, and they haven't articulated the bigger thesis, and that's what SCOTUS is going to do.
Corrupted political actors who act in bad faith. The reason why people like Mark and people like Dahlia seem to have a crystal ball is because they're real, because they're realists, and they understand the court for what it is. And at some point, people in the media, people at home, and people sitting in the White House have to stop pretending that the Supreme Court is some kind of benign, trying to do its best institution and start to realize that there are 6 Republicans, not conservatives, Republicans on the Supreme Court who view it as their job to help the Republican Party. And until we do something about that, until we take away that power, until we draw the line on them there, they will continue to do this. They will help Trump. They will take away abortion rights. They will end affirmative action. They will liberalize gun rights. They will do all of it until we stop them. And somebody needs to start listening in the higher echelons of the Democratic Party, because we will keep losing every day we allow these 6 Republicans in robes to rule over all of us.
Wow. So he's very upset about that, isn't he? So somebody needs to do something about those Supreme Court judges, or else we're all going to die. Everything's going to fall apart, right? They are freaked out. They're freaked out because they know that this is their last gasp. They're doing everything they can to stop him. And if the Supreme Court is not going to let the J6 case go to trial because they're actually reviewing it, all is lost for them. Here is Judge Luttig. We'll only listen to about a little bit of this because I know we can only tolerate so much. He speaks at 0.25 speed like molasses spilling out of a can.
Immunity case.
Well, thank you for having me with you this afternoon, Nicole. I'm just hearing this moment.
I just heard it in my ear as we threw to the...
Look, this is a momentous decision just to hear this case. There was no reason in this world for the Supreme Court to take this case. The 3-judge panel of the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia had written a masterful opinion.
It was terrible. They didn't even sign it.
Denying that the president's claims of absolute immunity. Under the Constitution and the laws of the United States, there's never been an argument that a former president is immune from prosecution for crimes that he committed while in office. On the more practical level,
there's no precedent because it's never been prosecuted.
The Supreme Court is capable of deciding this very quickly in time that the former president could be tried before the election. But today's decision makes that much more unlikely.
Just explain that for me.
Oh, no.
The road. If they had refused to hear it, the appeals court ruling would have held. and
Would have
the
gone back to
trial-
Chutkan.
Judge Tanya Chutkan could have scheduled her trial.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what I had expected the court to do, as had many other.
Well, you were wrong, okay? We all knew you were wrong. You guys are wrong constantly. I don't know anybody listens to these guys, actually. They said the same thing about the Supreme Court Colorado case. They said that, that was beautiful. The Democrats in Colorado did an amazing job, and there's nothing else to even think about on that one. Yep, they accepted it. And even the lefty judges, even Ketanji was like, well, this is kind of ridiculous. It says no president in that list, so why doesn't it say it, And there was a lot there, but they're dead wrong again. SCOTUS obviously accepted it because that opinion from the unsigned judges, apparently it wasn't so masterful there, Judge.
Observers of the Supreme Court. That's why it is very significant that the court has decided to take the case and hear it.
Oh man, they're all so depressed about it. It's just beautiful to watch. Well, maybe you should actually think about the Constitution and about the format of our structure of government before you guys just start filing a bunch of insane motions and insane prosecutions that are not based in the law. Don't prosecute based on politics, and you wouldn't be here so depressed. But of course, this is good news. We're going to be here continuing to cover this. We do have briefs that are scheduled coming out very soon from both sides, and when they drop, we're going to be covering them in depth. So, my friends, thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. Thanks for also checking out some of the links down in the description below. We do members-only streams in the morning. We'd love to have you watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We have an amazing community, and we do a lot of fun stuff, including Saturday shows. So come and join us. We also have watcherlodge.com, our sovereignty and self-development community, linked below. And if you want to sign up for our daily newsletter, you can do that at robertgovea.com. All in the description. My friends, thanks for subscribing and liking this video, and thanks for inviting someone to come over here and join us when we go live, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here on the next one. All right, and now we've got a little bit of a short Fani update with this wild, wild story. Fani Willis in Fulton County had an interesting training program where she would rank judges based on different criteria. One might think that judges are ranked based on, their performance, based on the sentences they handed down, based on some of their historical rulings, maybe some of the benches that they're on, what's their history, where'd they go to school, this type of stuff. But no, not in Fani Willis's Fulton County. No, there they do it by race. They rank you based on your race and your gender, which I think is not very inclusive at all. In fact, it feels kind of racist, but that's what we're dealing with in Fulton County. And so what we're going to take a look at here today is this video clip that was pulled over by Breitbart. And you can see it says that black and male right there. You can see it. Black and male is on the list, right? So we're going to see how these things rank up, and you can play along at home. If you were a judge, how would you rank on Fani's hierarchy of racism in Fulton County in their prosecutor's office? So we'll see. Now, we also know that the current judge, who has her political and legal future in his hands, is a white male. So Scott McAfee, we're going to see where he falls on this racist hierarchy. But the story comes over from Breitbart. And of course, they pulled out this TV, they put it in front of the prosecutors, just like, when it used to have kind of one of those slow days at school, teachers hung over, they come out, they want to, sit down for an hour or so. They say, watch this movie. You're like 8 years old, 12 years old, whatever. It's some documentary. Kind of the same thing happens in Fulton County for those prosecutors there who also have, low attention spans and whatever. So they wheeled this thing out and they said, we're going to learn about racism today and about judges. And here is what it looked like. So from Breitbart, they pulled together a great report, and they've been doing some exclusive reporting over there because they've got their hands on a bunch of insiders. They tell us that Fulton County DA Fani Willis, she apparently, according to Wendell Husibo, apparently subjected her employees to mandatory race training, forcing the entire office to rate black or white skin colors as either good or bad. Whoa. Wow. Now, according to training slides, this came from and video that was exclusively obtained by Breitbart News, and they're doing great reporting, so make sure you're adding them to your queue. Now, here is a source. Here's what they told Breitbart. They said, if you don't participate in Fani's quiz, you get fired. Now, sources who shared the race training with Breitbart, they wish to remain anonymous. Well, you can see why. For fear of retribution, due to their direct knowledge of the corrupt and hostile work environment. So sources described the race training as a directive straight from Willis. Here's what they said. Willis injected racism into the office from the second she got hired. She won in 2020. She's up for re-election this November, and I think she's running unopposed currently. In 2021, she began probing former President Trump. Now, dubbed an implicit bias test, a Harvard website generated the diversity, equity, and inclusion slides that made some sources feel that they were ashamed because they were white. They were white guys, man, in Fani's office. And we know how they get treated. She doesn't sleep with them, and she doesn't pay them $1 million like she does to Nathan. Willis had some guy be live for roughly 8 hours. He was a former member of Obama's White House. Now, the training suggested the United States was founded on the sins of white men and the slaughter of Native Americans. One source described, I thought it was so wrong. Willis pulled it off as diversity training, all right? So she makes everybody go do this. But it was more so an attack on the race relations thing, a source explained. Now, we're going to learn diversity, and you're going to learn how terrible you are, white guys. One element of the training described by a source was a slide test where users had to choose to move an image of a white person to a block that said bad in order to complete the program. So here's how it works. He says that the source, it had a word on the left and it's a box. There's a word on the left and a word on the right, and there's an image. And I needed to connect the image to one side, which determines your bias. So until you said that the white guy was bad, it would not let you move on. I'll show you a screen of that. So it said white bad on one side. It said black good on the other side. And there was an image of a person that came up. And if you didn't drag it to the white bad category, the white man pops up in the middle. And if you couldn't pass the test, they put an X in it and it won't let you move on. So you have to confirm it. You have to play ball here. Here's the story. It says part 1 of 7. White people you see right here, black people over here. So this is from Harvard, okay? Implicit.harvard.edu. And we know Harvard. I mean, do they even learn anything there? I don't know. But here, white, I think they just plagiarize and call everyone racist, as far as I can tell, and wreck the global political realm. Guys like Anthony Blinken leading us to multiple wars, But anyways, so they say, okay, put a left finger over the green area for items that belong to the category white people. So just like, it's like a tapping thing. Okay, left finger here if it goes to white people. Move the category to white people. Put a right finger over the right green area for items that belong into black people. So items will appear one at a time, and you just play this little tappy game. Okay, if you make a mistake, a red X will appear. So touch the other side. Now, go as fast as you can while being accurate, right? So they want you to not think about it. You see a white guy, bad, black guy, good, white guy, bad, 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 good, 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 ba, 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 ba. So touch the lower green area to start. Ready? Play at home. Okay. We tap it. So the first screen pops up. I don't know what to press. I don't know. It says white people on this side, and it says black people over here. So let's say you tap one of those. You say, okay, we're going to tap black people. Tap that one on the right. Then the next screen pops up. And here's what it says. Bad or white people. Bad or white people, or good or black people. A Harvard test. This comes from Harvard. Very smart over there. So is that a white guy? I don't know. So if you were to tap on this one, the white people, then that's the bad, okay? White people are bad. Tap that. If you were to tap good, because maybe you want to say, oh, hey, a white guy's good too, just like a black guy is. What's the difference here? Why is this so racist? That guy's not a black person, I don't think. I don't know how he identifies. Maybe he is. But you tap that, And wrong. Sorry. White people or bad. So put him on the bad side because he's white guy. Here's another one. The word hate. What do you think? This pops up. You're tapping very fast. What are you tapping? The word hate, 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 hate. Is hate good? No, hate's bad. We don't want our hearts filled with hate. Bad, like white people are. Definitely bad like white people. Hate is not a good thing, and also black people are a good thing, and so there's no good or hate or black people on the right category. Okay. Here's another, that's how it works apparently. So here's another part of the test. Next, this comes from Harvard. Next, you will categorize items into groups as fast as you can. Okay, these are the 4 groups and items that belong to each. Male, female, science, or liberal arts. Male is going to be man, son, father, boy, uncle, grandpa. Female is going to be mother, wife, aunt, daughter, grandma, the things. Science, astronomy, math, engineering, geology. Liberal arts, history, music, literature, English. There are 7 parts. The instructions change for each part, so pay attention. So, of course, they're forgetting, all the other 37 genders in there. It seems not very inclusive. But here, take this test with a keyboard or mouse instead. Here's a bunch of other tests. Gender science, IAT, Arab Muslim, gender career, race, sexuality, age, presidents. Here's another questionnaire. Answer these very fast. Okay, this is what these geniuses do at Harvard. Oh, man. They say, which statement best describes you? I mean, they're causing people to actually become more racist. It's wild. And they want you. It's weird. I don't know why they're doing this, but anyways, which statement best describes you? I strongly prefer white people to black people. I moderately prefer white people to black people. I slightly prefer white people to black people. I like white people and black people equally. I slightly prefer black people to white people. I moderately prefer black people to white people. And I strongly prefer black people to white people. Why do we have to chronicle and categorize all of this? It's wild to be so obsessed with race. It's crazy. Here's another one. What statement best describes you? I like white people and black people equally, right? I slightly prefer black people to white. It's crazy racist garbage. How warm or cold do you feel towards black people? Extremely warm all the way down to extremely cold. Submit your answers so we know to fire you or whatever. Breitbart News also obtained a race training video, all right? And it ranked, this video I'm about to share with you, it ranked the most racist judges as described by a source with the training. So Fani's office comes in and they just start chronicling people. Black male, white female, black female. They say, this is the training video. Now the video, which played during this race training session, it mentioned Florida and not Georgia, and it used statistics not based on Fulton County data. Yeah, that's because they don't want to dump where they eat, okay? They don't want to criticize their own judges. If this, there's, problems with that. It also spoke about judges as being partisans, although judges in Georgia run unaffiliated. Now, the audio of this clip has been muted to protect the identity of the source who provided it, so they know who got this. But here's the video, and it says, it's not your first brush with the law. You've been caught with driving without a license. You're set to appear before a judge, but you don't know who your best bet would be for the judge to be. Black and male. Black male judges sentence black defendants to 10% less. Do you see that? To 10% less. So black judges sentence black defendants to 10% less time. According to, it's hard to read it, but you see what's happening, okay? So they're playing this video. Let me just read the transcript. So here's the transcript of what was in the video. This is Fani's training to all of her Fulton County staff. Okay, prosecutors, they're watching this like 8-year-olds on their, TV that they wheel out when Fani's like, I think I need another anti-corruption meeting with Nathan Wade. Hey, Nathan, should we have a meeting in the conference room? I thought you had to train your prosecutors. She's like, I'm just going to show them the racist judge video. He's like, I love that video. Perfect. Play that one. Let's go have a meeting. So here's what they played to all of the 8-year-old prosecutors there. They said, okay, prosecutors, pay attention. You're set to appear before a judge, but you don't know who. Your best bet would be for the judge to be black and male. Black male judges sentenced black defendants 10% less time in the lockup than whites, according to 12 years of criminal data compiled by court clerks. So this is just wild. Okay, first of all, she's a prosecutor, and generally prosecutors are looking for more time. We have a system that's called an adversarial system. It works when you have both sides going at each other. But if you have a prosecutor who's trying to racially adjust for equity, I don't know what's going on here. But why, I don't know why it's appropriate for black defendants to get less time than white defendants. I mean, that's like clearly racist. It's disgusting. So shouldn't they make those arguments, I guess? Like, if they're interested in equal justice, shouldn't they, if they have a white defendant in front of a black male judge, shouldn't they try to get the same sentence, right? Shouldn't the white guy in front of a black male judge get the same time as the black guy in front of the black male judge? Like, should it be equal justice? Not that we're trying to get our black defendants in front of black judges because we'll get better deals for them. And the white defendants can fend for themselves, I guess. But I mean, that's just part of the problem. But the other problem, she's a prosecutor. She's supposed to be asking for for justice, not to, and not for decreased sentences. Like, she's asking for lower penalties for people who committed crimes. That's a prosecutor? But she changes this, right? So the white guys, they're kind of okay. Get the black male defendants in front of the black male judges. They'll get better deals. But if that black male judge is a Republican, then don't. Then get that guy out of there. Then that thinking shifts. No groups sentenced blacks. So again, they're not, it's just blacks, to more time compared to whites than black Republican judges. All right. So a black Republican judge who sees a black defendant is going to say, you're again, that is wrong too. Like, that is wrong also. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see white guys get a benefit in a black male judge's courtroom because they're white and some black kid go to prison longer. Like, that's also wrong. Now, 69% more time to be exact. Is that white racism, I guess? What attributes that? I don't know. Or is it republicanism? Right? This is wild. So black female judges are the fairest. Yeah. They sentence blacks and whites to the same amount of time, which is good. That's kind of what we want, right? But black female judges are also the harshest. They send away both black and whites for far longer than any other member of the group. But what are the odds of getting a black judge? Because that's apparently what they all want, right? What are the odds? Well, they're not in your favor, okay? Only 28 of the more than 450 judges who preside over serious criminal cases in Florida, not in Fulton, are black. Because they don't want to trash their own judges, because you'll get in trouble with that from the state bar. So the judge would probably be white. And if your judge is a white male, you can expect 20% more time in the lockup than a white defendant, because you're going to have a black defendant. If it's a white female and you have a black defendant, you can have expecting 10% more. So the white female judges, the worst. Politics also come into play. Republican judges sentence blacks 21% more time in lockup than whites, and Democrat judges sentence blacks 70% more time. Now, I'm sure that a lot of this is true, right? I mean, there are trends in the law. Like, there's even trends about locations, for example. Like, you can look at politics clearly. Look what's happening in D.C. with the J6 cases, right? All of the drug crimes and car thefts and robberies and all those are all getting kind of, you're free to go, you're free to go, you're free to go. But you step one foot in the Capitol, prison. So it's about politics, right? There's a lot of things that cause these differences. What's so strange about this is that a DA is talking about this, right? Like, this is common in the law. There's a lot of analytics that go into the law. We talk about, different cases. Like, for example, if you're a male charged with a type of a grab 'em by the purse situation, you might want a female lawyer to show that you're not opposed to females, right? Kind of a thing like that. So you play to demographics. You have these conversations all the time. What's so strange about this is that it's coming from a prosecutor, right? And a prosecutor is supposed to be doing justice across the board, not trying to finagle like their favored criminal defendant class in front of the right judges, right? Black defendants in front of black male judges. Everyone else is kind of like whatever. They're all just forgotten about. And the rest of this that's so strange is that she's asking for lower sentences. Like, you're going to get the best deal here. Like, don't you want to go the opposite way if you're a prosecutor? Or at least a fair, like, shouldn't fairness be where you want to go? But she says, no, your best bet for the judge would be a black male. So Fani prefers black males as judges. The allegations of extremist training on racial issues are the latest revelation. Multiple sources told Breitbart that Nathan Wade, who is a black male, Willis's one-time lover, yeah, right, and fellow Trump prosecutor, was a key decision maker on which employees to hire or fire in the DA's office. And so the accusation of Wade's previously unreported service for the DA's office raises ethical concerns about all this. And so in addition, multiple sources have also told Breitbart that the Democrats planted a Democrat operative inside Fulton County from the Biden administration, and Scott McAfee is going to be weighing what to do with Fani Willis, a very corrupt prosecutor and also a bona fide racist in Fulton County. So now the question is that a problem? Does Fulton County even care about it at all? Like, is this totally acceptable to treat people like trading cards? You know, I've got like 2 blacks, 2 gays, and a trans. And you know, what the heck is going, what are you talking about? Can we just be people like in a normal America? No, you can't. And in fact, we're operating on 2 totally different planes. I wanted to share this with you because we are waiting for Judge Scott McAfee to come out and hold summation arguments, which we're going to be covering here. So please subscribe wherever you're watching this. But 11 Alive is the local news agency there, and they just published this massive puff piece about Fani Willis and all the racism and attack that she's under there. So it feels like the political layer to this, right? We're in the court of law. We're also in the court of public opinion. What's happening in the court of public opinion? This out of Atlanta.
The biggest case of Fani Willis's career overshadowed, igniting cultural conversations bigger than her testimony.
Cultural conversations.
Mike's up. Stand by.
Moments after Fani Willis took the stand,
you lied on Monday, and yet here we still are.
What they did prove today is that Fani Willis ain't nothing to play with.
Those are the exact words of a defiant Fani Willis.
It was clear where Willis stood.
You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial.
Ready to defend her name.
It is a lie. It is a lie.
The pursuit to disqualify Willis has sparked a bigger conversation about race, cultural norms, and gender, stemming from the line of questions, the tone of how she was addressed, leaving many chiming in on what Black women face in leadership roles.
Where do you get your audacity from? How dare you?
What?
Atlanta radio host Miss Shiny.
Is she talking about Fani stealing $1 million for her lover and going on multiple cruises? Is that the how dare you she's talking about? Is that what's going on?
It says watching Willis defend herself brought to light the frustrations of Black women.
And I will certainly restate it so it is very accurate.
Okay, and please do not yell at me.
Okay, I'm not
Don't
talking
yell
about
at
No, I want to be clear because my credibility is being evaluated here, right?
They were trying to create this narrative about her, and they wanted to see her fold. They wanted to see her be this angry Black woman in the seat, and they kept bringing it. And it was very disrespectful.
She was an angry woman, okay? She was screaming there, rah! You know, and that's irrespective of race, okay? She was screaming that these were lies. The judge had to cut her off, had to warn her that he was going to strike her testimony, and called a 5-minute break. Are you kidding? Did you watch it?
James Woodall, social justice organizer and former president of the Georgia chapter of the NAACP, says what was televised evoked different emotions.
That's for
What
sure.
I have also seen, however, was the ways in which Black women have had to respond to legacies of racism, legacies of bigotry, legacies of sexism, and it in some ways hurts them.
Longtime Atlanta media personality Frank Ski agrees.
She had the right to be mad.
She
I
did.
would be mad as hell. They're playing a game. They're trying to make that into the circus.
He says
she made it into the circus, my friends. She's the one who did all this and then lied on it. Okay, she got caught, okay, busted. She could have come out and been honest about it. But all of this is her own fault and her own doing. She submitted affidavits that were clearly lies. We have text messages to prove it and multiple witnesses.
questions about Fani Willis keeping large sums of cash was not really about cash.
The cash, you do not know where that money
Here we go.
came from. I do know where it came from. It came from my sweat and tears. I never thought about the money until y'all brought it up.
White people understand cash.
We do.
White people have had cash all their life. They get it. You get what I'm saying? They don't.
A little bit. Yeah, I think so. Maybe you can continue to explain it to me. Hold on a second. Let me get a notepad.
Expect black people to have that much cash.
Wait.
These are conversations we have as a community every single day. This was a political theater trying to obfuscate the reality of a former president who is on trial, and it's unacceptable.
When Willis testified that safety concerns led her to leave her home and stay elsewhere, Ms. Shainika says that should have been a bigger headline.
It was a yes for safety reasons, correct?
Those were all of the things that caused a safety concern.
Where is her protection? She's not being protected because you guys are trying to pull her apart.
What we saw, especially with Fani Willis, articulated what a lot of African American women feel all the time.
When we say protect black women, that's exactly what it should be. The question now becomes protected from whom?
Stand by camera.
Herself. Protect her from herself because she lied to the court and covered it up for many years. And so now she's getting busted and they got to be held accountable. It's nothing to do with race. It has to do with disgusting, corrupt behavior from a prosecutor's office. And they're held to a higher standard and they keep falling below it. And they have the weirdest office in the world where everything is about race. And apparently Fani can do whatever she wants all the time with no consequences and nobody can say anything about it. So we're going to continue to cover this, my friends. And don't forget, we're going to be here tomorrow on Friday, March 1st, first day of March, for summation arguments, closing arguments on the evidentiary hearing. And so make sure you're subscribed wherever it is you're watching because that is going to be a doozy. We also have some great links down in the description below. Come on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com to join our members only community where we do streams in the morning and streams on Saturday. RobertGovea.com has our newsletter and our merch stop. And we'd love to have you at watcherlodge.com, our sovereignty and self-development community. So come check it out. And we'll look forward to seeing you back here on the next one. All right, my friends. That is it for us on the day. Fani loves black males, judges who are judges. And Trump's DC case is on life support. And Michael Cohen is going to be the star witness in the New York criminal trial. And Trump is fighting to have his testimony precluded. And so we covered some good ground today, my friends. Now let's hear from you and let's see what you have to say about this before we go on over for our members only after party at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We had some great donos in the house and I missed a couple of these yesterday. And this one was from this old guy talking about the SCOTUS immunity provision. Says, a spokesman for the special counsel's office declined to comment on the SCOTUS, but sobbing could be heard in the background. But we got Jane C. What's up, Jane K? Jane K is our newest supporter over on the YouTubes. The good doctor says, Rob, if you're in LA, I will take you to Carvel. And on Locals, we listened to the Carvel theme song, and it was good. Zone Girl says, we just need to remind all of the blue judges that if they don't give Trump immunity, we will be coming after Biden and Obama for their crimes in office. And yes, that was kind of Rachel Maddow's point. You know, she's like, well, Trump will never leave. I'm like, well, that's going to be the standard for every president. Hello. Quarter Native says, did you get my other donos, Rob? I think so. Angeron got busted creeping on young girls at the gym. And we saw that. That was from James O'Keefe. And that was yesterday, a spicy one. Hey, Flagpole Guy says, PG, Rob, humor is the only way I can deal with this stuff. Sorry for getting too spicy. But hey, you, sir, you like spice. At the same time, these topics hold a rhythm that feel they are above consequences. Humor is better than anger. Totally agree, Flagpole Guy. It's not that I don't like the spice. Sometimes I just have to be cognizant about the spice because our channel's like on pins and needles with the YouTube censors. He sits right over there. He's like eyeballing me all the time. Relax, okay? We're not doing anything. Calm down. They just get a little sensitive when we start posting stuff on the screen, so I got to be careful about that. You know how it is. We got Husky Mom said, but thank you for being here, and I appreciate it, Flagpole Guy. Keep up the great work. Husky Mom says, good evening, watchers. Hopefully I can catch the show as I'm driving up the I-65 to Tennessee, headed to Louisville to be with my father that's in the ICU. Please keep my family in your thoughts and prayers. I'm counting on Rob to get me through the Nashville rush hour. Husky Mom, we're praying for you, my friend, and to the Husky Mom household. And so, my friends, if you've got some extra love in the prayer jar, I know you do, send it over to the Husky Mom household and for her father. And we pray for a speedy recovery, Husky. Drive safely. We got Janet M. What's up, Janet M. in the house? Thanks for becoming our newest supporter over on the YouTubes. Catania Mama Italia says, smash that like button, baby. Thank you, Mama. We got Glocky says, it's not just Fulton County. There's a lot of other problems there. Apparently, a progressive Georgia DA steps down from the Lake and Riley case after criticism. Wow, that's what that one was about. Interesting. So all of Georgia is just in total disarray. Thank you, Glocky. We the People is bringing in 5 new members. John S., Joe H., Jason G. We got GE coming in. And Stop Sniffing Kids, Joe, is also coming in the house from We the People. Good to see you guys. We got Brian C. is a new supporter. Welcome aboard, Brian. We'll see you tomorrow on the members only stream in the morning. Glocky's here. Says, I remember when replacement theory was a conspiracy. I wonder how the people of New York are going to like being governed by illegals. Kathy Hochul moves forward with a plan to prioritize illegal immigrants for New York state jobs. Of course. Yeah, not really our country anymore. Hasn't been for a while. We got this from Felix. Michael Giglio Cohen, the perjurer. We got Zone Girl says, do they not realize that if SCOTUS denies presidential immunity, that's going to leave Obama and Biden open to indictment for their behavior as well? Yeah. I don't know if they do think, I don't know if they recognize that or not. But my gosh. Rachel Maddow obviously couldn't put 2 and 2 together. We got Ulsterman. What's up, Ulsterman? My friends, today's a very special day. We have a happy birthday in the house over to the Ulsterman household. We got Dylan and Luke celebrating a big Fani style 16th birthday today. And so happy birthday to Dylan and Luke celebrating big Fani style. Little too young, you know, they're 16, so they're not out drinking Grey Goose and going on cruises to Belize. But they are hopefully getting those licenses pretty soon. I remember 16, that was a pretty good year. Says, I hope you don't pull the old I don't recall. Love your coverage. Make America great again. Same to you, Ulsterman. Happy birthday to Dylan and Luke, the big 16, the big Fani 16. Hope you're having a beautiful day, my friends. Have fun, be safe, and thanks for tuning in. Have a great time. Happy birthday. We got this one from GSM McLovin, a membo for 7 months. Oh my gosh, 2 away from a baby. Says, stick to the news. We don't care about the Zen. Well, you don't have to watch the stuff if you don't care about the Zen. You don't have to watch. Just, watch something else. That's fine. Glocky is here. Says, so I noticed that Democrats love screaming about Trump and justice, and no one is above the law, and spending tax dollars on persecuting him. So let's check in on one Democrat city represented in Congress by Sheila Jackson Lee. Says, outrage in Houston after police audit reveals 260,000 crimes that were not investigated. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of them. We got this one from Glocky. Thank you, Glocky, on that one. We have Tony Hay. Says, Kyle L. Tony Hay's bringing in Kyle L. Lactonics coming in. Stuart M. Eric H. and Carl all coming in as new members. Great to have you. Welcome aboard. Then thank you to Tony Hay Munkets for bringing them in. Rob is here. Says, Nathan and Fani are busy indicting each other legally now because of the romantic indicting they were doing and lied about, which got them both in trouble. Good to see you, Rob. Hey, Dre Cano is in the house. Welcome aboard, Dre Cano. Thanks for being our newest supporter. Pink Rose says, oversight. Says this. Oh, it's a deposition transcript. Is that Hunter's? I think it is. That's Roberts Hunter Biden's transcript. Ooh, okay, interesting. We got Debbie G's here. Says, who cares? Half of Congress has paid off somebody. from Debbie, a membo for 7 months. Good to see you, Debbie G. We got Queen Bee's Art Hive has been a membo for 4 months. Says, I love y'all. We are family. We love you back. Look at that nice hug there from Queen Bee's Art Hive. Great to see you as a membo for 4 months. Thanks for being here and jumping in. We got Luis H. said, is bringing in 5 new membos. CA Human, Don't Be Hatin', Scott McClish, SB, and Darkstar. All coming in courtesy of Lewis H. Very great to have you. We got Sportfish in the house. Says, Ole Blue Eyes, here's a buck. Ole Blue Eyes, here's a buck. My eyes are brown. Yeah. But thank you for the $1, Sportfish. Appreciate that. Thanks for being over on Rumble. Thank you. Doug M says, thanks, Rob. It's Sue here. Rest in peace, Laken Riley. Biden's a jerk. That's all true. It's a great comment and accurate. We got Dolphin Fan in the house, bringing in 5 new membos. We got Christine C, Lori H, Aubin Ann, Noble V, and Izzy H, all joining us courtesy of Dolphin Fan is the man, and we're grateful to have you aboard. We got 200 Watt Studio says they know the Supreme Court was going to intervene. They are playing for the dumb voters that don't know. Yeah, so you think they're just making up like a show, like it's all just a big charade. They knew it was just a political hatchet job, and they went after him anyways, knowing that this was where it was going. Maybe. I think they are also delusional as well. We got this one from Glocky says, just think, if Trump was an illegal, not only would he be shielded from being prosecuted, but Democrat sheriffs and DAs would stop his extradition to places that would prosecute him. That's probably true too. Probably give him $10,000 credit cards too. CA Human says, why doesn't LawTube gather in all the chats and write an amicus brief, make it an event, and submit it for the case? That's an interesting idea, CA Human. We have to get a bunch of LawTubers together. That's probably a tall order, but it's a great idea. NY says, Andrew Weismann, if he feels so strongly on Trump, proving his innocence should put it in an amicus brief. Then we can then place an ethical violation as an attorney should not trample on the assumption of innocence. Sergeant Willie, been a membo for 9 months, says baby is due. Woo, we got a new baby in the house. Welcome aboard, Sergeant Willie. Thanks for being a membo for 9 months. We're grateful to have the newest baby. We got Glocky says, did Lisa Rubin eat a bag of Cheetos before the MSNBC interview? Oh gosh, I don't know. Cheetos are good. Roy says, if Weismann is confident the evidence will prove his guilt, then no doubt he won't mind the cases being moved to a Republican state in front of a Republican judge. We got NY says, look how the bride of Dracula just trampled on the DOJ rule of affecting elections. They couldn't even get a search warrant on Hunter Biden in August 2020. They are contorting all over just to stop Trump. They have no credibility, and the public sees it. It's evaporating by the day. The DOJ just keeps getting, I think, less and less effective as time goes by. We got Scott Z. What's up, Scott Z? And bringing in 10 membos. Thank you, Scott. Very generous of you. We got Angie M, Tazzy Wazzy, Texas Beast is here, Amazing Disgrace, DM, Sherry D, Rocky's joining us, B Dubs is here, Dan F, and Kimmy. Why censored? Were you in the house? Or why censored? Just wondering. Are all in the house, courtesy of Scott Z. Thank you, Scott. Hey, it's the Munkets. Bringing in Kelly Davis, Melody, Ann B, Josh the Commenter, and Janine S. All coming in courtesy of Tony Hey Munkets. Indoctrination says, great show as usual. Excited to see when we can do Rumble rants from... Oh, you can. That's cool. Yeah, so... Yeah, they're rolling out some new features. So you can now do Rumble rants from the Android app now. That's cool. Thank you, Indoctrination. Yeah, they're rolling out some new stuff. I just got a new email that Locals has some new features as well, which is good. Or some new back-end features, which is good. NY says, Dylan Esper exposes what on the left they thought would work. The mere presence of an indictment and a trial would be like kryptonite to stop Trump from running. It had the exact opposite effect. They have no idea what to do now, and they are scrambling. I fear for Trump's life. Ugh. I know. Yeah, it's a scary thing out there because they're pulling out all the stops, breaking glass in case of emergency, and who knows what else they're willing to do. CA Smirk says, I just hope and pray Republicans are paying attention to all of these leftoids shenanigans, and they use them against the blue team when it comes time. Praying for America. We all are. Yeah, we all are. And we're also actively involved in this, right? I think we're keeping our energy engaged, and we hope that the Republicans recognize it as well on an institutional level, but we might have to do it alone. Knox says, happy Thursday, all. They time these cases the way old folks used to time our drugs before a concert. So that LSD just hits at that nice crescendo. Whoa! Look like Hunter Biden out there. We got Patrick Parker says, Robert, you sound pretty angry about this. Well, I don't like when a defendant's rights are dumped all over, because it is a violation of our Constitution and our natural rights to have a presumption of innocence when we're being prosecuted by corrupt governments. Glocky says, Democrats did the same thing with abortion. They are the ones that appealed it to SCOTUS and then screamed about Republicans banning it. Same thing they're doing with Trump, filing appeals and then screaming about a Republican-controlled SCOTUS is destroying democracy all day, right? That's what they do. They take the action and then blame the other side. They cause the border to be a problem. I can't believe Trump did that. You know, they cause endless problems and they blame the other side because they've got no integrity. Glocky's here, says that Rachel dude is an angry little fella. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Catwoman, what's up, Catwoman? Over on Rumble, says, Rob, thank you, Robert, for shining the big, beautiful spotlight on the corrupt swamp going after our beloved President Trump. Congrats on passing 51 subs, too, as well. Thank you, Catwoman. Yeah, we're seeing some nice growth on Rumble, and we really appreciate our Rumble friends over there. True Social. We got Jacob, Little Galaxy, A Job Done Well, The Real Arthur, Catwoman's in the house, Sudi's over there, Snaggletooth on Rumble over there. It's great to see our Rumble friends. And Catwoman, thank you for the very generous donut. We're keeping on, man. We're just getting started. They're going to start getting even more aggressive as time goes by. We got Beezy says, if he is voted out, is Maddow on drugs? Someone tell her it's his second term, so he can't run again. That's an interesting meme. We got The Bronx is here, says, if there is no presidential immunity, then there is no limited sovereign immunity for executive branch employees downstream. It makes no logical sense. Judges are immune. Congress people are immune. But the president's the only one who's not? Sure. Glocky says, whoa, have a look at Rachel Maddow. She really isn't Asian well. Chubby says, I was expecting Rachel Maddow to be logical, or expecting her to be logical is like expecting Nancy Pelosi to be sober. Not a strong likelihood of achieving that goal. NY says, they talk about Trump lies. Now the narrative, according to Maddow, is we need to prosecute and jail Trump because he's going to stay in office for life. What evidence of there is that? None. He left the last time. It's a baseless lie. She also misstates the question. The DC case is about immunity during the J6. He was still president. She claims the question deals with immunity after he is out of office. Yeah, and immunity supports him leaving, right? So that he doesn't get prosecuted. Ike's girl says, I have found when the Dems say something, it's because they are either doing that thing or they're planning on doing it. Biden wanted unfettered power. Why? For him? Or for whoever's going to be replacing him. Thanks, Ike's girl. Rob says, until we take control of everything like tyrannical people, we will lose. Like the tyrannists, like the tyrants, we will lose. Felix says, Democrat authoritarian communists. DACs, for sure. Knox says, forgive me for thinking logically, but their one and done just for Trump explanation for all this law bending merely cement the claim for malicious prosecution. I agree with that. Yeah, and there's a lot of that going on. Well, only for Trump. It's only for this. It's only for that. Well, it shows you, right? They're bending the rules to make it happen. Hey, Pamela. What's up, Pamela? Says, remember the Colorado case was 9-0. Yeah, it was unanimous. I think might have been like 7-0, but you're right. It was refreshing that the whole court did their job, notwithstanding their political party lean. Okay, so Colorado is still being decided, right? We don't have an actual ruling on presidential ballot, but it felt like it was good. It feels like it's going to be 9-0 or 8-3, unless I missed that somewhere, but I don't think I did. But I think you're when we listened to the oral arguments, it was pretty much unanimous. So I think when we do get the Colorado ruling, I think he's going to be on the ballot. And I think the same thing, for the same reason, is going to happen with immunity, because they care about the institution of the presidency. They don't care about, Trump necessarily, like everyone else does. Glocky says, wait until Elie hears about the Ninth Circuit Court. And we got this old guy says, I absolutely love watching liberals lose it. We talked about a lot of that today, saw a lot of it. NY says, Elie Mystal, anything happens to any of the justices, you're the first one on the list to be investigated. It was almost insurrectionary behavior and insurrectionary language, wasn't it? Rob says, we must pack the court. Pack the court. So the court, so we win. Chubby says, they keep upholding rights protected by the Constitution, and we have to stop this malarkey, says some big mad guy on the leftist media who is big mad. He definitely was. Felix calls it the Great Fani Fiasco, which is a good name. Debbie G says, Biden got to the border and immediately ordered a Choco Taco, which I think those are rest in peace, aren't they? Did we lose Choco Taco, I think? What did I say? 8-3? What did I mean? 6-3? Biden got to the border and those are good. Those are delicious. He should get one. He should also secure the border. 1R5 says, they don't think it through. They don't think this way. Or are they just lying? I'm guessing the latter. Yeah, maybe she's not a dumb person, or maybe, I also think maybe they're just, little TDS. I don't know what else to call it. We got this one from Glocky. Says, Rob, is this request by Jack new, or did you cover it already? It appears he wants the trials to start in September and October, but I was told by Comey it's against DOJ guidelines to do that, because no partisan DOJ, the nonpartisan DOJ, doesn't prosecute. I don't know if we've covered this or not. It looks like a scheduling order. So they want a new trial date on July 8th, 2024. Looks like it's Jay Bratt. Looks like the Florida case. So I don't know. I don't know when that one was filed, but I'll look at it. Don't be hating says, the DEI at my daughter's private school, as well as the gender stuff, they do it without us knowing. My daughter got caught up in some non-binary stuff and became terrible. We left. One family got kicked out for speaking up and they sued. Lost their case here in North Carolina. Praying for appeals. Man, that's gross. Yeah, that's not good. Thanks for sharing that. Don't be hating. We got, hey, John McGarvey says, hey, Rob, what's your next thought? Turkey, bacon. What's my next thought? I would say hash browns. Is that right? Rob says, what's up, brainwashing, Rob? We got Felix says, let's hear it for the World War III, brought to you by the Ivy League educated and funded military industrial complex. Good to see you, Felix. Thank you for sending that one in. Pinochet says, I considered a Harvard degree on par with toilet paper. I don't really know what they do there. I mean, we have a lot of people who went to Harvard who are running things, and things aren't run very well. We got Melissa Moe says, I've taken one of these racial bias tests, and the bad or white people is supposedly going to show whether you unconsciously considered black people bad. So when you see a black person, you wrongly select bad or white. It's a fast test, so it's supposedly revealing unconscious bias, but it doesn't effectively measure whether you unconsciously consider white people bad. It's only one way, and it's stupid. Yeah, it felt very, very strange to me. What are we doing here? Rob says, that means Clarence Thomas is on the right side, and good. NY says, if Fani used that as training, she should be then putting a motion in front of court to reduce a sentence of white offenders. I hope defense attorneys submit this in a motion in court. None of this analysis goes into prior convictions or pre-sentence reports. It's unbelievable they have a stance like this. Just ask for a low sentence if it's appropriate. But they try to finagle their defendants in front of the right judge based on their race. This transcript, says this old guy, assumes that I'm black. It never states that. The damn transcript is racist, from this old guy. Rob says, Fani needs to be disbarred. Good idea. Rob says, Benny Johnson on YouTube put a video up a few hours ago. Shout out to Benny Johnson. 2 calls to Poroshenko and 1 to Hunter referencing dealings in Ukraine. Wouldn't be surprised to see this news doing the rounds shortly. Timestamps at 25, 35, and 40 on the Benny Johnson channel. So shout out to Benny Johnson. right next door, got a great channel, covers a lot of the same stuff we cover here, and sounds like a great link. Thank you for that, Rob. And Hunter Biden transcripts are out as well, too. We got Ray K and Spidey. Spidey says, very funny how Fani is now victimized when she's trying to destroy Trump and his workers' families. Yeah, Australian Spider-Man supports Trump. Shout out to Australian Spider-Man. It's what we need. We need Australian Spider-Man. Thank you. And FJB, very good to see you, Spidey. Yeah, Fani's a total victim, right? Ray K says, it's going to be a doozy over tomorrow when we come back. Patrick Parker says, the threats were not coming from when she was a district attorney. She was a prosecuting attorney. Before she became district attorney, she said she had to live because she got daily threats when she was a prosecutor. Yeah, and I don't know the timeline on that. You know, I don't know if she was DA. Like, remember Daddy Fani came out and he explained to us that her house got, you know, spray painted and all that stuff. So I think he said that was when she was the actual DA. But I'm sure she's been getting threats forever, right? Because that's all these people are constantly under attack. NY says, yeah, white people understand cash. We do. That's good. Right now, the Institute for Justice is fighting several cases against Fani for civil asset forfeiture of cash being seized at an Atlanta airport. The DA's premise is large sums of cash are inherently evidence of illegal activity and the government can seize it without any evidence because a lot of cash is just alone suspicious. CNN says, Fani was never losing control in the stand. It was all a planned performance all along. She has been well trained for the camera. Interesting. So you think she's trying to like parlay this into some other gig? Felix says, poor victim of hormones and the flesh. Need my Nathan's booty call. It's lonely being a prosecutor. It's lonely, you know. She gets all alone because no one likes them. Quarter Native says one should never hate or dislike anyone based on immutable characteristics. If you got to hate anyone, hate everyone equally. But I'm dumb. I'll show myself out. Thank you, Quarter Native. Yeah, I think that's a good, it's fair. It's equitable, you know. Jennifer says, let's all stop and take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. It is going to be okay. We did a breathing exercise this morning, and it was really great with our friend Jason Campbell, and I had a ton of fun. Leanne says, what? Love the Zen, and thank you. I loved it too, Leanne, and I loved it too. And of course, we're going to be trying a bunch of different stuff here, and it's kind of like a buffet. If you like it, take a bite, enjoy it. If you don't like it, just move on. That's no problem at all. We'll see you next time. We got Cohen says, in your professional opinion, why is SCOTUS still silent on the Colorado case? I think today a traffic judge in Illinois said that Trump couldn't appear on the ballot. What happened? SCOTUS never rules on the SCOTUS case. Well, they will. Yeah. And I was going to cover that Illinois judge, but it's like, I don't even know why he did that. It's all on hold. So until we get some guidance from SCOTUS, you know, that's the end of it. He can say that, but SCOTUS is going to overrule him. I think they're just drafting an opinion and there's not real rush on it. Kind of. Because he's on the ballot everywhere. And the judge in Illinois just said the general. So in Maine, that was stayed. In Colorado, that was stayed. So we got Super Tuesday coming up next week. He's going to be on the ballots, I think, in all the cases on Super Tuesday. So I don't think there's a real urgency at the moment. Finn Contracting. What's up, Finn? Says this morning's Zen Wellness segment was fantastic. Thanks for sharing with us, Rob. You're doing God's work. Thank you, Finn. I thought it was really fantastic as well. And I think that from time to time, you know, trying something new, exploring something that we maybe don't normally do is good for us. And so I know that Jason Campbell and his work has been very powerful and impactful in my life. And so I'm trying to share with you stuff that I think is might be useful to you too. But if it's not, no worries, right? But I think that for many, it really was. And so Finn, thanks for supporting that. And I think that hopefully you had a good breathing session and you're feeling energized today. I certainly am. We got Pang is here. What's up? Says, welcome, Pang. Thanks for joining us and becoming a supporter. And John McGarvey, John McGarvey's testing out the tubes and says, just checking this Rumble rant from the mobile option. It works. John, thanks for doing that, man. Thanks for beta testing and sending it out on the Rumbles. We got G-Man. Says, did Terrence Bradley ever really commit perjury? Some of his testimony definitely incriminated Wade and Willis, but did he ever really incriminate himself in testimony? It's a good question. I mean, I would say my gut is yes, but you'd have to pinpoint that down. Like, I think if you compare and contrast the text messages, like there's stuff in the text that he says, I don't recall, but like, it's pretty obvious that he does recall, right? He just said it like in January. Okay. He was just saying the stuff like 3 months ago. So I think if he were a criminal defendant and he was being charged, that they could get him on perjury. I think Fani and Wade for sure, like theirs is a little more different because they submitted an actual affidavit, right? Like that's what we're so keyed in on with Fani and Wade. I'm actually not even that concerned with Terrence, honestly. Like, yeah, the dude, he's an abstract, he's a witness. So did he commit perjury? I would say yes, and you could probably create a good record on it. But the record that I would use and jump off on with Wade and Willis is the affidavit, right? That the relationship started in 2022. So that's a clear-cut lie. They submitted and filed to the court. Terrence was very waffly, right? I don't recall. I don't remember. It was speculation. So even if you said that his testimony that I don't recall, maybe he didn't recall, I don't know. He's got a little bit more leeway there, but we all could tell what he was doing. Like, we know he was lying, but do you have opposite statements like you do with Fani and Wade? Like an affirmative statement that you can challenge and use evidence to prove against? I don't know if that's there. I'm sure you could cobble a case together, though. Good question, G-Man. Felix says, Democrat narcissistic communists, DNC, sounds better, or Democrat nihilistic communists. Yeah, narcissistic's pretty good. Yeah, it's all about them. They do whatever they want all the time. Ray K, what's up? Cat Williams on Rogan is a good listen. Check that one out at 1.75 speed. That's pretty fast, Ray K. You got some quick ears on your head. Kelly D, what's up, Kelly D? Very nice. First super on a live stream. Thank you, Kelly, for sending that in. Very generous of you. Grateful that you are here and joining us and supporting our work. Hope to see you back here. And you're a member, so we will. We got this one from Lady Ice. Says, hey, Rob, listening to this while driving through a blizzard in lovely upstate New York. That looks blizzardy. Very blizzardy. Be safe on the road out there. Lady Ice. Lady Ice. There's ice all over the place. You are Lady Ice. Sandy says, Fani filed a new motion. She wants a Napa witness about her paying cash. Yeah, I've seen that story. So she went and dug up somebody from Napa who says Fani did pay with cash. And so the document is now out. Thank you for the link on that. Maybe we'll get to that tomorrow. Sandy says, Anna Cross is not on this motion either. She might be off the case. Wow. So Sandy, I actually looked at that today. I checked out the Georgia docket and it still has problems because Fulton County computers are still broken. But I saw her name still on the docket, on the court docket. So I don't know why she's not signing the motions. But yeah, very interesting. Indoctrination says whoever was ripping on the Zen needs some Zen in their life. Probably true. Peng says, pop it. Peng is bringing in pop it. First of all, everybody needs some Zen in their life, even if you don't. And I was one of the most opposed to Zen for a long time, right? I was like, whatever, this crap, it's lame. I don't need that. I need some hard charge and adrenaline. That's actually the opposite, right? The more Zen you have, the more capacity you have because you're not revved up going 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I think Zen, and by the way, it's not just me. It's like all the ultra high performers, they're all getting their mind right because they recognize that we are being counter-programmed by this all the time. We have constant wars on for our mental capacity. And so we really, I strongly believe in it, have to pause and unplug, which is why on Friday we say unplug and all the things. So I think Zen is very important. And if we're going to be good, strong advocates for our families, for our communities, and for our country, we have to be high performing. And we have to have endurance and we have to be well. So thank you, Indoctrination. I agree. Peng, what's up? Bringing in Puppet, bringing in Patriot Chick, bringing in Randy, bringing in Tyler, bringing in Caesar, all coming in courtesy of Peng. Thank you, Peng, for bringing them in. We got Debbie G says, Fani found out that once the money was gone, the honey is gone. Yeah. Couldn't have paid me $1 million to have a bedroom gymnastics with Big Fani. Yeah, that's true. $1 million goes by pretty fast these days under Joe Biden's inflation. But a gymnastics session with Big Fani, that lasts forever. Senevieve says, I got to say, I thought Bradley was spineless on the stand, But after seeing his text between him and Merchant, I actually feel bad that his career is at risk now. He seemed like a decent person. They got to him. He should have laid it all out on the stand and saved himself. Totally agreed. Totally agreed. Would have been honest and the most integrity thing that he could have done. And you would have felt for him. You would have said, damn, you know, the DA of Fulton County is coming at you and they're like making up these assault claims and stuff. He could have actually turned himself into a hero, but he did not do that. So that is where that's where we're at now as a result. Let's see. That one was from Senevies. Hey, says also, Fulton County Court computer room must have had a leak in the water main. It has been broken for a month now, maybe longer than that. Remember they had that hack in Fulton County and their system is still broken. Liberum says, hey, salute from Orlando Italian Hispanics for Trump. Amazing. So shout out to our friends, our Orlando Italian Hispanics for Trump. Shout out. What a great group. Man, that's amazing. Italian Hispanics for Trump. I love it. What's up? Thank you, Liberium. We got Ike's Girl says, a good Zen is when you can work and not think, right? Get into a state. Jason Campbell explained it today. It's the space in between the thoughts and it's mastery. And it's very powerful. And we need, you know, we got to be more Zen'd out than the other side, by the way. We've got to be stronger, more intelligent, faster, more productive, have better values, and have more Zen than the other side. And that's how we're all going to persevere into the future. So thank you for sending those in, my friends. And we are going to jump over to locals for our members only after party here in a quick second. But let's say hello to our friends on X. And man, I just lose so much track of time. All right. We got some nice people on X. Hey, what's up? Barb's loves Alaska's over there. Oh gosh, we have a Palmy no meme over there. Oh gosh. Oh, I know what that is, Paul. All right, we'll leave that one. Danny says Fani just made it so the judge rules against her. He'll be voted out. And Vientikis. Hey, Vientikis says Rob, TV shows used to have a censor that would sit right over there too, just like my guy. Punk. All right, Cohen is a liar. We got Rob's over in the house. What's up, Ronnie? Legal Beagle. We got a lot of good comments. What's up, Kent? Says your content is great. And the Hunter Biden Depot has come out. So, my friends, thanks for joining us over on the X platform and saying hello over there. Hey, what's up? Ray again, good to see you. Okay, so, my friends, that is going to be it for us on the day. We are going to leave it there and go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com to debrief on the day. And we'd love to see you come and join us. Before we wrap it up, we want to say thanks to our mods and our meme smiths, our friends Vientikis Prime. We got K-Bean, Just Cause, our friend Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zulu, Beyond Geo, Zach Nichols, of course, John Allen, Janik909, Dog Digger, and Donut Mind Me in the house. Our meme smiths are Sleepy Dog Lee, Nathan, N810, and Geegum Geegum. And so, my friends, that is going to be it for us on the day. We are going to be back here tomorrow. It's going to be a beautiful Friday. And we'd love to see you back here to get into it again. And we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.